It doesn't matter what studies
Because
you
of-
produce. Like,
Oh, okay. So it doesn't matter what material conditions are around me. It doesn't matter the genuine things that exist around us. That doesn't matter to you.
no, we can look at like.
Okay.
Yeah, we should use common
I'm over
sense
this.
a little
I
bit.
can't. I'm sorry. If you aren't basing your fucking arguments in reality, I've got nothing for you, dog. I can list you. I can link you a handful of goddamn articles. But if you just reject the reality that's around you right now, I've got nothing for you. You live in an elseworld of conspiracy and theocratic fascist drivel. I've got nothing.
This is a Uppbeat alert.
I love this. This is incredible. Okay. Disabled, 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 much like most people on the right. Okay. With that lovely transition, we're actually ready to go now. Thank you for your patience. Soda, will you give a brief introduction for those of you, or for those who are unaware of who you are, and why we were having this little discussion?
I'm Zach. I'm 28.
1 year older than me. Damn, already lost.
I've been a neocon since about 2016.
Would you like to
Not
talk
sure
a little
what
bit more about that, actually? I believe that in one of our
Yeah.
first conversations we talked about that.
Yeah, it's somewhat of an interesting story. Before I really got too into politics, I was... Oh, there's an ad. Should I chill out for a minute?
Oh yeah, I would just mute the stream, look away.
Yeah, I'm just... Yeah,
oh
I'm
no,
just
no, by
watching
all
the
means. Hey, people got to pay for this shit, okay?
stream. Yeah, I have it muted, otherwise I'd hear
Okay.
you twice and myself, so...
Perfect.
But I'm still watching, so I can watch mash buttons say, wave
Yeah,
at me and shit.
just espouse bottom supremacy and advocate for a bottom ethno state for sure. Okay, so you were not a neocon before 2016. Would you like to talk about what changed?
It was largely... Well, I wasn't very political before, but I became more political working at a fast food joint, and I had a boss there who's a pretty hardcore Zionist. He was a journalist for Canada on the Conservative Parliament of Canada.
Are you Canadian?
No, but I lived near there, so
Okay.
I worked at Tim Hortons. So
Old Timmy's,
Honor-
all right.
honorary Canadian. you
Yeah,
could say.
braver than the troops, all right. I could never work at a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks or whatever. Barista to barista, y'all are braver than the troops. You deal with more shit than I was able to. So you had this Zionist journalist boss.
Yes.
So what part of that radicalized you into becoming a neocon?
Well, I've been saying this lately now. People like to kind of think that truth and evidence is like the only way that you can convince somebody to a position. But I discovered that there's another way, and that's really through model and like looking up to somebody. You know, there's an expression that every boy needs a second father figure in his life,
Sure.
and that's kind of what he served as. And he just sort of had this idyllic life. He had a wife that was way hotter, way out of his league. He's like a millionaire. He had a very interesting life. He went to Iraq and actually tortured a guy, which is an interesting story.
And you feel like this is someone worth
Women
looking
like-
up to?
Yeah, women like guys with interesting stories, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's something to be said about that. So you found this second father figure. Now, understanding, I guess
He
a
also
little
taught
bit.
me about like finance and stuff. He got me into house hacking, and it's how I started buying houses and renting them out and
Sure.
making money through that.
Okay. So none of this is really kind of what we're here to talk about. However, I was curious about what did get you into politics. I'm just trying to more or less figure out your axioms and kind of your foundation. Would you elucidate chat and maybe those who are watching who aren't in chat right now? Would you mind elucidating those folks as to why we were having this conversation?
Well, we disagree on a lot, and the trans issue is kind of my jihad. But as for how I became political, it was just sort of through the Atheist Plus pipeline on YouTube around 2016. Specifically, I believe that Sam Harris conversation with Bill Maher was a big sort of watershed moment for the community.
Sure.
Where,
I'm not privy with that specific conversation, though. I do have my own thoughts on Sam Harris, but yes, continue.
yeah, Bill Maher kind of, or someone on the panel with Bill Maher. I doubt Bill Maher would do this because he's very anti-Islam. But Sam Harris was ranting about how Islam is evil and all this, and someone on the panel. Oh, it was that actor from The Town and the writer of Good Will Hunting, Ben Affleck. Is that his name?
Sounds right. Did
Yeah.
he direct Good Will Hunting?
Well, I like to think of the Family Guy meeting where he's just sitting there smoking
Gus Van
pot.
Sant?
Well,
Is that who you're talking about?
no, he was in Good Will Hunting, and I believe he got a writing accreditation for it.
Interesting. Okay. Lastly, real quick, just for posterity's sake, will you go ahead and give your pronouns for people in chat?
Male. I don't believe in pronouns, so just
Lovely.
male.
Gender abolition, all for it. Okay. So I would like to kind of define or hone in on at least 1 to 3 points, or at most 1 to 3 points that we disagree on, so we don't kind of get too carried away. See, this is a very broad conversation that we're going to be having, and I believe that we'll be at it for hours if we just kind of cover transness as a whole, or gender ideologies as a whole. So feel free, if it's useful, when we were having our heated little gamer moments at each other a couple streams ago, we were talking about social and physical transition, especially regarding kids. But if there are generally 1 to 3 points that you would like to talk about, kind of think of this as like an opening statement.
Yeah, I would like to talk about just how it's men can't be women. Like, there's not really any logical sense to it. There's no way you could even prove that this exists. I'd like to talk about over medicalization. That's that's a different way that I frame it compared to some other conservatives. Like Ben Shapiro, you hear talk about like this is a mental illness, but I'm more like it's not really a mental illness. It's just kind of being medicalized, even though as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe gender dysphoria has ever been proven to be the cause of suicidality.
Okay.
And I don't know if I could think of a third one.
I think that's a really good starting
Okay.
starting outline. Let me make sure that I have your points written down.
I had sort of an opening question to you.
Yeah, sure. We can do that.
So you identify as non-binary, and I was curious what that means to you, because to me, it just seems like a political label.
Okay, sure. So I will say, actually, and I believe that we've talked about this on stream before. See, I, believe it or not, did not come out of the womb a they-them raging leftist. And pre, I didn't come out with blue hair and pronouns. I know, right? I'll never beat the. Hey, I did not come out of the womb into a room of bisexual lighting, but through kind of self-questioning. See, 2016, I feel like, was a pretty radicalizing point for a lot of Americans, especially.
Yeah, a lot of millennials, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, especially millennials, being at the height, the apex of rapid expanse in technology. Yeah, it's very common for this to happen, kind of with the self, also politically, through kind of my own line of questioning of, how do we define what a man and a woman is? Well, men wear suits. Well, not only men wear suits. Okay, well, men can have facial hair, or men have facial hair. Men have beards. Well, spoiler alert, there are women that also, there are men that don't have beards, and there are women that actually have beards.
True, even cis women that have beards worth mentioning.
Absolutely, for sure. And it was kind of going down this line of rhetoric and realizing that I'm actually uncomfortable with the label of being a man. See, I present myself masculinely. I don't think that there's any denying that. It's not just the way that I look. It's not just because I have a beard. It's the way that I square my shoulders. It's the way that I talk. Kind of my general affect, I feel like, is very masculine. However, no part of me really defines myself as a man. I don't feel comfortable with that. I kind of went on the spectrum of gender fluidity. I questioned, if I was trans. I questioned if, I felt more like a woman. And that also really didn't feel right to me either. I know that I didn't feel comfortable with the total representation of being a man. What does feel comfortable to me is kind of being everything and nothing all at once, right? It's like that movie. Wow. That's kind of a very brief synopsis, if that would make sense. I felt like once I came out as non-binary, I no longer had to act in this role that I was uncomfy in.
Yeah, okay, that's makes sense to me. It's kind of what I expected to hear.
Okay.
And I feel like you, along with many other people, are just conflating masculinity and femininity, personality traits with male and female. And yes, how do you define male and female? And in biology, it's pretty much been well known for a while that females have the large gametes, males have the small gametes.
See, this has
And
actually been historically disproven. See, sex is actually more or less on a bimodal distribution. If you would like, there's a handful of, or at least a few research documents I can send your way, but I don't really want to get too muddied in that because we'd just be sending data back and forth at each other, and it would be very boring for chat. The Scientific American has described many characteristics which factor into one's sexual identity being more or less ambiguous and lying on this bimodal distribution. The Trump administration even talked about this and talked about attempts to make sex a binary thing as immoral and unscientific. The modern scientific attitudes towards human sex are unequivocally that it does lie on a bimodal distribution, that it's not one or the other. There are men with feminine characteristics, with men with, more with like women's hormones or women with men's hormones, right? There are also intersex people. Even when we look at sex, this isn't, this isn't black and white. So defining man and woman by sex gets incredibly muddy if we're going to be taking kind of like...
It really doesn't. It's just intersex people exist, which are, for true intersex people, there are intersex people such as like the andro-resistant type. Like those are men. Like that's a condition that only affects males. But there are true gonadal intersex people who have an indeterminate sex. And that really more just means that we can't figure out what sex they are. So
right. This lies on the bimodal distribution. I think the point that I'm laboriously trying to make is that, at least so we can kind of tie it back and get into the meat and bones of the discussion, with me and kind of with my own line of questioning regarding my gender, it was that on a biological level, these were indeterminate definitions, very muddy, murky definitions, none of which I felt comfortable with, and insofar as gender presentation as well, something that I also did not feel comfortable with.
It's really very simple. If you have the DNA, the mechanics to produce sperm, then you're a male. If you have the DNA mechanics
there
to
are men
produce
that can't
eggs,
produce sperm. There are women that can't produce eggs.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, women only
heard about
produce
menopause?
eggs. Yeah, if you think about it, women only produce eggs for actually a pretty short period in their life. It's not like they're not a woman, and then they hit puberty, suddenly they are a woman, and then they hit menopause and they're not a woman because they always have the mechanics to produce eggs.
But
You know, like a
there are men and
flower is
women
still
who,
a flower even before it blooms,
but
right?
there are men and women who can't produce
Well, there are
these things.
intersex
And
people,
also,
but they are neither man or woman.
if we
But
wa- if we want
all
to talk,
men,
I'm sorry,
by
go on.
definition, all men by definition have the mechanics to produce sperm. Now, there could be things that are preventing that from operating, such as like you get in an accident or you get a disease, that could prevent you from that mechanic from working properly. Like, first of all, you could die. I mean, that'll prevent you from producing sperm, but you're still a man.
I've been told this happens a few times.
Yeah.
Um,
So I feel like this is just a misunderstanding of how male and female are defined in biology.
I feel like the misunderstanding is actually on your part. Again, the World Health Organization, the National Health Association, like there are no shortage of the
Are they
APA.
biologists?
Absolutely, yeah. These are people who not only study, who are scientists, who are biologists. These are not only these people within these fields, but these are people who do meta-analyses, who do meta-analyses on meta-analyses. All of these historically prove that sex does in fact lie on a bimodal distribution. And I mean, we can move on from this.
That's cool.
If we can move on from this if we're kind of talking in circles here. However, I need you.
Okay.
I need you to.
So if a man, for example, gets is born with a hormonal disease, what would you classify him as, other than a man with a hormonal disease that's preventing him from producing sperm?
I'm sorry. One more time. I was messing with Streamlabs.
If a man, for example, becomes sick and can't produce sperm,
Yes.
what would you classify him as?
If he so chooses, I would define him as a man.
So you just kind of define it based on whatever people choose?
I don't think that. Yeah, I mean, I do, but I don't see how these two things are related. See, this is a self definition. Oh. Now, see, my thing is your categories kind of lie in this murky water where now we look at presentation. See,
it's not murky for me. I can classify any person as either male, female, or true gonadal intersex. That's all there is.
Would you be able to look at somebody and understand their sexual function? Would you be able to look at somebody like, let's say, Blair White and be able to understand, like, let's say the most passing trans woman, I don't know who, Passy McPasserson, looks exactly like a cis woman. Would you be able to distinguish, to clock their sexual functions?
Well, just by looking at them, no. You need to actually look at their DNA, and because the instructions to produce sperm or eggs is in either the second X chromosome or in the Y chromosome, so that's how we're able to determine.
And so
male
we're going,
female,
and so
even
we're
if,
going to be doing this with
fetuses.
every single person to determine how they present, to determine their gender presentation, their gender roles, how we treat them.
I mean, that pretty much already happens. You can determine somebody's sex in utero, so
it's
and also after death by looking at the bone.
This gets to a very laborious stricture that.
Well, I don't want to live in a world where people, just are actually male based on their genetics, and they just declare they're female. I'd rather, not have to think about it.
Sure.
Because it used to be a useful category to determine your sexual reproductive function in society.
What was the use?
Determine your sexual reproductive. I mean, we're pairing people. People want to have kids, so if they want a man if they're a woman, they want a woman if they're a man, unless they're.
You're queer.
That
right?
works for most people.
Am I wrong in remembering that?
I'm not a 1 on the Kinsley scale, but I just identify as straight because I don't see much point in identifying as bisexual personally. I never have.
Okay.
I've always had this question. How
Sure.
how do you know straight people are straight?
Yeah.
You just take their word for it?
Yeah, exactly. I feel
pretty much always since growing up, I've always thought that even straight people, that they might be a little bit gay. That this as far as we know, could be true for every single straight person, but we would never know. And so I just find that identifying as straight makes the most sense. Like, it doesn't really matter if you're a 2 on the Kinsley scale.
I feel like that we could actually have this conversation in regards to gender as well. However, my line of questioning in Mash Button Sexual, exactly. I feel like our line of questioning can more so be kind of directed insofar as when we look at pairing people, we are not looking at reproduction. I think that's very foolish. Again, they're cis people. You know, even if you want to talk about, you know, the reproductive instructions, there are women that can have kids but can't because it'll kill them. There are queer people. Does being queer take away their gender?
No, there are tomboys, there are effeminate men, there are men who can't produce sperm, and I want to address this question by Arthur. So if a man lost his ability to reproduce, would you strip him of his identity as a man? No, of course not. And if you look at like women, like they only produce eggs for a short window in their life. It's not like they're only women for that window where they produce eggs because they always have the instructions and the mechanics to produce eggs.
I actually feel like I do need to send you, unfortunately, I feel like I do need to send you some documents.
Well, let me go with a different argument that I feel like you're basing your definition based purely on stereotypes. Where it's like, oh, if you play with dolls, then you're a woman. If you play
Not
with
at all.
trucks, then you're a man.
I don't, actually, I feel like the stereotypes
unless
are
it's
actually
me.
what I'm trying to negate. See, I'm a gender abolitionist. I don't think that there's anything inherently masculine or feminine. I think these are foolish terms to use.
So it's just merely based on identity. I feel like that's even dumber in a way than anybody could just.
You know what I'm
declare
gonna.
that they are
You know what
woman.
I'm going to ask, right? You've
No,
laid my
what?
trap card. Can you define a chair for me?
A chair?
Mhm.
Yeah, it has 4 legs. It's designed to be sat on.
Okay. So let's take my dog, for example. My sweet, sweet big baby boy, right? Also has 4 legs. Sometimes I sit on him. It's really cute, actually. Is he a chair?
Sit on your dog. No, it's not designed to be sat on. It's a dog.
Why is he not designed to be sat on? He's very cute and I want to sit on him.
You know, by this structure, you can actually just erase any categorical definitions of anything.
Right.
Like, what is a mountain? Well, a mountain is a tall, carved out piece of earth. Okay, but now what if it's underwater? Now suddenly it's an island. Like,
Sure. But we also kind of use this linguistically as well. See, we have metaphors, we have similes, we language kind of adapts to the situation. Would you say that my dog, if I'm sitting on him, having 4 legs, and I look at him, I'm like, wow, you were designed to be sat on. Would he be a chair in that instance? Does that make him a chair over being a dog? Are there instances in which my dog is a chair?
are there instances in which a dog is a chair?
Mm-hmm.
No, because it's a dog.
Sure, but if I'm sitting on him and using him as a chair, his function is as a chair. What about a
dog is not designed to be sat on. I don't know.
What about a cool stump of wood? You know, you walk into someone who looks like me. You walk into someone's house and they look like me. So of course I'm gonna have like the fucking epoxy resin table, and I have like the stumps of wood. You know the memes, the epoxy resin tables. They look so stupid. And I have like some like wood stump stools around it. Well, those are legless, but were designed in fact to be sat on.
This is such a strange argument. Do you believe that no words have any definable meaning at all?
Not at all.
Is this what you're getting at?
I think that language is descriptive. I don't think it is prescriptive. I think it is incredibly limiting and foolish to prescriptively determine a definition and stick to that for hundreds and hundreds or thousands of years until the day we die. Language doesn't do this. In fact, up until like the mid 1900s, we described all young boys as girls until they hit adolescence or puberty. Every child was defined as a girl. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Isn't that crazy?
That kind of sounds
we've
like
changed the definition of
Greek shit.
Yeah. Well, we've actually very recently done that, as early as the 1900s.
Yeah, like they used to not have categories for like straight used to not be a word, but it was just kind of
Exactly.
invented by the LGBT community, and now it's kind of, I don't
I
see the
don't.
point of it.
Sure. My thing is that if we're just going to be talking about language, I'm not sure how much longer you'd like to talk about language as a subject. We get into some very vague waters here, and I think that there's some more material circumstances that we can look at. But my position on language is that there is power in using it as a descriptive force. I think you limit yourself incredibly so when you limit yourself to this is what a man is, this is what a woman is. I think we can look functionally forward and kind of more accurately describe things. I think there's a lot of power in that, and I think you're limiting yourself pretty heavily.
Language, 2 points to that.
Sure.
Well, maybe three. This is like a philosophical debate that I'm sure we
That
could
is what we're doing.
that we could read more about and find good arguments on both sides, frankly, to this, because this is an old philosophical debate, really, very, very old philosophical debate.
Are you
You
going to
mentioned
be talking about the ship of Theseus?
no, I wasn't going to mention that, but yeah,
Okay.
that's another like you can get into this type of stuff, but for my purposes, like ultimately we do use language to describe certain things, and if words mean nothing, then you're kind of removing the purpose of it. I don't find your way of looking at language to be free, and I actually find it to be rather useless and limiting. Like words
I feel like
should
I'm
mean something.
I feel like I'm I feel like I'm a pretty powerful rhetorician. I feel like I'm able to accurately describe things. Let's say, for example, saying for
Yeah,
the
it's
sake,
because I feel like you don't actually
let's
follow your beliefs.
let's
Like, I
say
mean,
for the sake of argument, am I right?
Okay.
We have again the most Passerson. May they be a man or a woman who goes into their chosen bathroom, right? Now, to you and to your your categories, it would be incredibly limiting to look at these people, and it would be irresponsible to look at those people and say, get out, use the other bathroom, because sexually they were born of a different gender. Would you look at somebody like Blair White and say,
Yeah,
okay,
Blair White's a man. I mean, I would not say anything.
would you
other
tell Blair White to use the men's restroom? Of course, my dog is playing with toys right now.
Yeah, I think men should use the men's restroom. I mean,
You see how that opens up. Okay, so not only is that incredibly limiting, and I feel like you're being incredibly disingenuous with that. However, ultimately, if we're going to be talking about my positions are indeed harm reduction. Now, see, when you do things like that, you do open up trans people to no shortage of harm.
well, I think they can take that into their own account. I mean, if you feel like, I mean, there might be cis regular men that feel anxious in a bathroom. I mean, there's no particular reason that they couldn't feel that. What would they do in that situation? They might seek a private bathroom. They might wait till everybody leaves. They might just wait for a stall to open up. That's what I do.
This begets. I mean, that's true. Hey, I'm also a part of the anxious pooper gang. I will only poop at home. Oh God, I can't do it. You can't make me. However, this begets a very anxious society, and one that I don't wish on anybody.
Well, I would hope that it would like actually make it hostile to transitioning, because I want less people transitioning ultimately. Because,
we'll be talking
I can
about that a
imagine
little bit.
Yeah.
However, this also impacts cis people as well. These strictures, as seen within also the purview of structural racism. Structural racism doesn't just affect people of color. It affects white people as well. The Panthers were very good at this idea of rainbow coalition building and saying, like, hey, like, you guys suffer under racism too, under different extents, but also under racism. And what your ideology and what your tenets are kind of leading to is exactly that. It is limiting, and it makes it stressful for everybody, not just for trans people, not just for people with gender dysphoria. It makes it hard for everybody, unnecessarily so. Now, I think that we can kind of extrapolate this past bathrooms. We can look at something a little bit more material, something that I feel like you have a lot to comment on, I'm sure, which is trans people being in their prison, the prison that is assigned with their gender presentation. See, there's the myth that a lot of people will transition, especially in the UK and Scotland, which is a little bit more progressive on trans issues. Scotland, that is, of course, not Turf Island, the UK. That people will transition to avoid, more often than not. You know, they always go for men's. They love the balls. They will say that men will transition and go to a women's prison when this categorically does not happen. However, what this does, and I think there might have been, if I remember correctly, there was one case out of hundreds of thousands of prisoners. There was one case in which this happened. However, if we are going to enact legislation against this one person, what this does is open up trans people trans prisoners to a litany of harm. See, when trans prisoners go into the opposite prison of their gender presentation, understanding, it leads to no shortage of abuse, of sexual assault, physical assault, death even.
Well, actually, I watch a prison podcaster a lot, and I believe the general consensus in the prison community is that the introduction of what they call boys, which are men with the breasts and such, has actually cut down on what they call booty bandits, because now you don't really need to.
I don't know anything about that or that podcaster, but there have been a litany of studies showing that when trans people are assigned to the prison that does not correspond with their gender, with, you know,
well, I of course think that they should be treated with, you know, consideration and put in an environment that is as safe as possible. You know, they should not be put in a maximum security prison with
the toughest of the tough. So then let's take this back. Now that we've kind of walked through a very extreme idea.
You know, they're not the only people that are vulnerable in prison due to.
Absolutely, but I care about egalitarianism in general. I don't know if these are things that you do or don't necessarily agree with. However, I do think that this is a component that we need to look at, just as a broad concept. When we talk about inclusiveness, we talk about harm reduction. Your views on language stand in the way of harm reduction.
Well, what do you mean by language?
Your very limiting prescriptive understanding of language and use of language.
No, I'm saying define language.
We use it to communicate. I don't know what.
Well, so if you use a picture to communicate, is that language?
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually talked about that on stream a little bit ago. Art is a form of communication.
So when you say that, you're talking about pictures that I make? I haven't made any pictures. See, you say that it's helpful to use language in this way, but you don't use language in this way. Nobody uses language in this way. It's just sort of this philosophical thought experiment.
No, I absolutely do. You describe things as they are in the moment. Or as they are. You
describe things in a way that is meant to convey something, what you mean to convey, as accurately and as concisely as possible.
That's not true. Well, let's take water for example. H2O, right? Okay. There are heavier water molecules.
Agua, as Vosh would say.
Yeah, exactly. Aqua, yeah. There are heavier water molecules, right? But we don't just broadly define everything that has H2O as a molecule as water. That would be incredibly harmful for the human race. Holy shit, we would all be dead, baby. Morgan is fine. We're talking with soda.
Yeah, there are useful categorical definitions, and I want to harp on your definition and go back to how it merely promotes stereotypes. Maybe you don't do this, but it seems pretty obvious that the trans community in general does this. I mean, there was that pop star who won Female Artist of the Year, first trans artist to win it, and they did an interview, and they were talking about how they always knew they were a girl because they liked
Oh,
playing
who
with
is
dolls.
this? Wait,
It-
no, this was the incredibly based artist that I'm totally blanking on right now.
the one who did the satanic thing was Sam Smith.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm thinking about a late artist. I'm not privy to this.
Oh, okay. I mean, if you look at the trans community, it really does just break down male and female based on uh, stereotypical personality traits.
I don't think so at all. Actually, a majority of the trans individuals and genderqueer people that I know are very keen on breaking down these stereotypes.
Absolutely, they are absolutely reinforcing these stereotypes. In fact, you tend to see that. Well, let's look at Iran, for example. This is that the Ayatollah issued a fatwa declaring that transgenderism is compatible with Islam, specifically because it reinforces traditional gender roles. You know, they do not want you to be an effeminate man or a gay man, but if you're a woman with those things, then now that's compatible with Islam. You see how it reinforces gender roles.
Yes, and we're currently doing this right now under the theocratic fascist purview of the United States. We're catapulting ourselves into this very, again, to my benefit. I feel like you just outlined something that is a benefit to my position here. This very limiting idea of definitions and who's making definitions, and them being prescriptive elements is leading to harm. Something that America is doing very much akin to Iran.
Okay, then let's go with this argument. Why couldn't a person identify as a red-tailed hawk then?
Oh, this is the attack helicopter thing, because this isn't something that people do. They're
No,
non-serious.
no, there's a TikToker that went viral. There are other kins exist.
There are indeed other kins. Are we looking at a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a very small minority of 3 TikTokers who hold no institutional power at all whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, how is it any different than
That's
defining
absolutely
yourself
foolish.
as a
If we base ourselves off the dumb shit that everybody says, holy shit! I say so much dumb shit on stream. Could you imagine? 3 beers in, and we're gonna start making legislation based off what drunk Commie Bravo has to say. Yeah, see, it's like, it is funny, right? Like, people are people, okay? Like, sometimes, hey, we all have definitely normal ones online. I don't look at people who identify as like treekin or whatever as valid, but hey, whatever. I think ultimately, and we're gonna keep circling back to this over and over again, at least on my ultimate position, I feel like this has kind of been wrapped around into my opening statement, is if it increases the quality of life and leads to more people being alive, I don't have issue with people going by trees. You know, the 3 people who do that and make TikToks about it to their 7 followers, I genuinely don't mind that. I don't see any sociological harm that's done.
Well, I think it's probably bad for that individual. Most of them seem unstable, to say the least.
I mean, they might seem unstable, but if they're happy, like, what's the alternative? That they don't live as they are, and that they constantly have feelings where they're eating at themselves, and where society
live as
rejects
they
them,
are,
where they are
and they
open
should
to
realize that
harassment and abuse and genocidal rhetoric. Is that preferable?
They should live as they are, but what they are is not a red-tailed fox. You know, what Blair White is a man. They should live as what they are.
Would you look at someone like Blair White across the street, you know, just passing you, not Blair White, but someone that looks like Blair White? Would you say, you're a man, you need to use a man's bathroom?
How would I know they're trans unless I,
Yeah.
Trust me, I you can tell once you start getting in there, but
Okay, so do you
just at a passing glance, like how long do I have to look at them? That's the question. how closely can I look at them? I feel like you can tell that Blair White is trans just by looking at them.
I highly disagree, but also, again, if we're looking at the most, can we do a little? Can we do a thing? Hold on. Are you looking at my Hold on.
Stream, yeah.
That's cool.
I thought that
Let
I
me get
muted
water,
notifications. Are you looking at my stream right now?
Yeah, let me get a water while you pull that up.
Okay. How are we doing, chat? Yeah, hydrate. Everybody in chat, hydrate. I feel like we're going to be at this for a while.
Yep.
Okay. Howdy, howdy. I want to go through a few pictures with you, okay?
So you think I'm gonna be able to tell if if a trans person? That's why we have the word passing. It's because they fool my ape-like brain into.
Whoops.
Especially now with pictures, you have like filters. You have
I just saved a picture of a random woman. Give me one moment, please. Why do I keep saving? I'm such a boomer. I swear. Is it because it's actually making me save this picture? I'm gonna fucking lose it. Oh, I'm gonna actually lose it. Okay. Hold on. Yeah, I know. Boo. I'm booming. That's a terrible picture. Hold on. Okay.
I'm not sure what this proves. There
Hold
are
on,
indeed
hold on.
some women who look like men, or vice versa, but they're still women. Because it's
Hold
not
on.
based on how you look.
Give me one moment.
I feel like that's an offensive thing to suggest.
Give me one moment. We're gonna do a little thought experiment. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Are you looking at stream?
Yeah.
Okay. Does this
Just
person
swipe
look
to-
cis?
Do they look cis?
Sorry, is this person cis? Let me rephrase.
Like,
Are they cis?
honestly, like I'm playing like 4D chess in my brain right here, and I'm
Okay.
thinking like because it's black and white, the
Uh-huh.
odds that they are trans is much lower than if it was a colored picture,
Oh
right?
boy, do I have an unfortunate reality for you. Trans and non-binary people have existed throughout history. Sorry, so you said
Yeah,
they're
it's
cis?
blown up recently. Yeah.
Okay. What about this person?
That looks like a cis woman.
Okay. What about this person?
More look. I mean, look, this is very offensive. You're like having me look
Is
at
it?
women and like zoom in on any masculine feature that they have.
Okay.
Like a woman with a straw jawline is still a woman. Like
Uh-huh.
being
So
passing is very meaningless.
hold on, I need to ban somebody. Easy. So let's get back. Are you able to clock people? Are you able to look at somebody?
No,
Analyze them?
I never said that you can determine a person's sex by looking at them. It's determined in their genetics. That's probably why that's probably why back in the past
So
we thought that
before
prepubescent males were women because we didn't understand the genetics of it.
before we allow anybody to have any iota of gender presentation, let's say a cis woman presenting and being treated such as a cis woman, a man being treated as such, or the other way around, trans women being treated as trans women, trans men being treated as trans men, or not. Do we analyze the DNA of every single person within your friend group? Let's say you seem like a very popular guy. Let's say you have 100 friends. You're going to do that with 100 of your besties that you go out to the clubs with?
But we already look at people's genetics. We can
Do we? I have
determine the sex in utero.
I have never asked for somebody's like DNA. I don't know. Maybe that's just me being normal. I have never.
Well, we don't. But
Okay.
I want to live in a society where people don't lie about their genetic biological sex.
I don't think people are. In fact, I know people aren't. There's no trans person. Okay, there might be some fucking fringe weirdos on TikTok, okay? Save me the 3 fucking weirdos that are constantly posting. However, as a whole, trans women don't think that they're actually biological women. Trans women are women. However, they do not say that they are DNA, sex, chromosomes. Like they do not say that they're biological women. Hey, give it. They are working on womb transplants.
If they want to be called trans
Hopefully.
women, I'd find that acceptable. Okay, you're a trans woman.
Is that not laborious to you? You have to say
No,
trans
it's
she, trans her all the time.
It's descriptive. No, you can say she and her.
It is descriptive indeed.
You could. Well, I wouldn't use she and her because I don't want to promote this delusion that I believe is, self-destructive and
use they them for everybody. Comrade and gender abolition. I see. So what if you're having a normal conversation with somebody? Again, Passy McPasserson. Are you going to stop the conversation and say, "Hey, what was your sex assigned at birth?" So I know how to.
If I'm gonna have sex with somebody, I mean, they kind of have to tell me.
If you're just having a normal
rape.
conversation, you're not even going to have sex with them. You're just having a normal ass conversation.
No, I wouldn't. Why would I ask that?
Yeah, exactly. Because that's really.
They shouldn't
fucking
lie
weird.
about it. They shouldn't. They should use the pronouns that are proper.
Yeah, their proper pronouns are indeed she, her. Again, if you look at Passy McPasserson, they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm he, him." You were kind of like weirded out by or not weirded out. I don't want to be disingenuous. You felt, a little bit put off by, or questioning at least, by the fact that I used they, them, right? What if I use she, her? What if Soda? What if I was assigned female at birth and I said, "Hi, I was assigned female at birth, so use she, her with me."
Then yeah,
you'd be comfy with that, proper. and you would point. You would have everyone point to me and say she, her. That's delusional.
What? And just because you have a beard, you can't be a woman? I don't understand why this is a.
It's weird, right? It's really weird, and it serves no linguistic function.
It's not weird because men and women have a variety of looks.
It's just
there is
no
one look
it's
a
just
woman can have.
That's weird.
Like if a woman has a beard, then that doesn't make her a man. If a man has feminine features, like large eyes, rosy cheeks, that doesn't make him a woman.
Mm-hmm.
There's a large variety of how people can look, so that's true. There's also a large variety in how people can behave and their preferences and what is socially considered gendered interests, But none of that defines womanhood or malehood. It's.
So what does define womanhood or malehood?
It's the capacity, the mechanics in your DNA to produce either large gametes or small gametes.
But there are men and women who can or cannot produce the respective typology.
No, there is not a single man on the planet who does not have the DNA mechanics to produce sperm. That does not exist. I'm sorry.
Sex lies on a bimodal distribution. I'm sorry, you were just categorically wrong on this.
Okay, find me a single man, biological man.
I'll send it to you in chat. I promise you. I'll send it to you in chat right now.
Okay.
Okay, and you can kind of pick through this. Bink. I hate that I'm using my Dark Souls binking. Bink. Be helpful if I bink. Whoops. That's Streamlabs. That's not Discord. Bink.
Yeah, so you look at this chart, and this chart makes perfect sense to me. Like an person with androgen insensitivity is a man.
Fucking sorry, New York Times is I'm gonna fucking lose it. They got a goddamn paywall. I'm gonna scream. Which chart are you looking at?
The Scientific American chart.
Okay.
Yeah, androgen insensitivity is a condition that only affects men, and Turner syndrome, I believe. Yeah, Turner syndrome is a condition that literally only affects female. Now, in the middle, which is really not the middle at all, because everything mixed gonadal, which I believe is true gonadal intersex. I believe that's what that is referring to. Those people are true intersex and can neither be categorized as male or female. That's not a middle. Everyone else is can be categorized into male and female.
Do you know what this basic chart outline is?
What?
Can we start here? Do you know what this is called?
What?
This is called a bimodal distribution.
It's not bimodal though, because everyone not in the middle is literally a woman, and everyone to the right is
Are
literally a
there?
man, and then there's
There
just a
are
third category of intersex. Yeah, women with
Soda.
Turner syndrome are women.
Soda.
Men with androgen insensitivity are men.
There
So how
there
they're
are
not
people
lesser
who
men.
live.
In fact, this is a very offensive chart because it's suggesting that women with Turner syndrome are somehow lesser women, which is not true at all. They are as much women as any other women.
There are people who are born what they think is assigned female at birth and live as women for a majority of their lives, and then reach a point where it's like, oh boy, I can't have kids. What's going on? They get a little look-sees, and oh shit, my chromosomes are a little bit on more of a distribution than I thought. Oh boy, hey, I have testes I didn't even fucking know about that are in me. That's crazy, right? This is, what, 1 to 2% of the population? Sex is bimodal.
It's not bimodal. If it was bimodal, then what would you call a man with androgen insensitivity other than a man with androgen insensitivity?
Whatever they want to be called. I don't care. I genuinely don't care.
So it's not even bimodal. It's more like a web to you. You don't even agree with this chart.
Sure.
You don't. You
No, I
sent me a
do.
chart you don't agree with.
I absolutely agree with it. It lies on a bimodal distribution. Things are a little bit more complicated. However, again, we're
But
trying
you
to...
don't believe that sex can be defined as a bimodal distribution because you believe that a woman with Turner syndrome can be either a man or a woman.
Yes, because sex and gender are different.
When this chart is suggesting that they are a woman, they're
Because
just
sex-
less of a woman than a
Because sex
typical
and gender are
biological
two
female.
different things.
Yep, gender doesn't like exist. It's literally just personality traits. Like if you play with dolls or like, and it's not a real scientific concept. It's totally bunk.
You're never going to beat that. You're actually a leftist troll. Accusations. My comrade in gender abolition. Yes, precisely. Gender and sex are two different things, and honestly, to me, gender means fucking nothing. I'm not going to push for gender abolition. I feel like that's really dishonest with the state of things right now. It's really harmful, but
Let's look at this other thing you sent me.
sure.
Because I mean, I feel confident with the first thing you sent me. This is not as easily digestible. I guess I'll have to read this on my own time. Okay.
Yeah, feel free. Those are there. Again, there's been no shortage of studies. The APA, the WHO, the NHS have all categorically shown, historically and proven, that trans people have existed throughout history, that they do exist that they do exist to this day, and that these are people that face persecution. Well, soon to be under DeSantis' America. Am I right?
I wish.
Go on.
Yeah, this is one thing you got to realize about the trans community is that they lie about everything. So when they talk about these cultures that have trans people, they're not trans at all. Have you heard the term third or fourth gender? Fourth gender being rare.
Yes.
Do you know what they are?
Is this are you talking about indigenous Western or Eastern cultures who have this third gender, this kind of broad amorphous idea of neither fitting into men or women?
Yeah, it literally is just third gender means feminine men, and fourth gender, which is rarer, is masculine women. There is no, well, if you look at like the two-spirit label, and you break down like on the Wikipedia every single one listed there, there's not a single one where it says that men can be women. there are just effeminate men who are classified as something else. And if you also look at like the languages, the indigenous languages, they have words for men and women, and they describe these effeminate men as those words. Like they don't use the female word for them. Like these have nothing to do with trans people. They're more akin to tomboys or to femboys, which I would agree those have existed through all of history. But this cultural notion that men can be women is purely Western imperialism that has never existed in any culture ever.
Western imperialism, gender ideology. You think
Yes.
you think Biden's going in with his they them army and is making everybody trans?
Kind of, yeah. They kind of push for that, not with an army, but yeah, through
So you are a very
political.
unserious person in regards to this one issue. Okay, I
Well,
want you to.
if I brought it up,
I want you to know, regardless of where this conversation leads. Okay, I love you. You're great, but holy shit, this is a deeply unserious position, and you kind of move in this tautological circle of nothingness. Trans people, I'm sorry to. It's the whole look. The moment that the Trump aide fucking came out and said that, oh well, we have alternative facts. The moment that came out, I knew this shit was gonna happen. You
I'm using
live in a different
imperialism in the
historical
sense of,
reality.
like,
I'm sorry, but trans people have existed and genderqueer people have existed. We can look at a great work by Sylvia Federici. Genderqueer.
sure, we could look at it, and I guarantee you, it's referring to effeminate males and masculine males, masculine women. I guarantee you.
That is a tautological. This is a circular definition. Sylvia Federici points out queer individuals and genderqueer individuals who were kind of primitively culminated into this idea of like the witch. See, if we couldn't make fucking kids out of you, then you're a goddamn witch and get out. And hey, genderqueer people aren't good for making kids and making workers, so get the fuck out. This was the global witch trials going well back into 700 to 14 to 1700. But we can go even further back. Trans people have existed before, during, after antiquity, and that's.
No, they have not. I've looked at these examples, and they're third and fourth sex. Please note that the assertion that there is a third gender or fourth gender is completely different from the assertion that men can be women. Do you appreciate that?
I appreciate the fact that there's fucking infinite genders. Okay, sure, why not? Even helicopter gender, why not? Get those licks in.
I feel like before we move off from definitions, which I do, I want to give another piece of rhetoric. I gotta ask you the question.
Okay.
What is a woman?
Sure.
The ultimate meme.
Yeah, absolutely. Fucking Matt Walsh. Yeah, a woman who is someone who defines herself as a woman and who functions societally as a woman.
But what is that?
Exactly what I meant. It is someone who descriptively is a woman.
Wait, break that down for me.
Yeah,
Is
sure.
descriptively a woman?
Yeah, sure. It's somebody that identifies as a woman and presents as
But
a
what
woman.
are they identifying as?
As a woman.
But what is that?
As a woman.
All right. All right.
I have no issue with this. It astounds me that this is like some
That
big. It astounds me that this is some big get within the right. Like, oh, the left has a trouble. No, I have a very, very easy way. I have a very, very easy time defining a woman. A woman is someone who defines herself as a woman.
Yeah, if you just assert a circular definition with no sense of irony, then I guess it's easy.
It's absolutely easy, and it doesn't confuse me at all. Someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm a woman. I use she, her." Great, cool. That's the shortest fucking conversation I've ever had about this.
Well, that's why I asked you what non-binary means to you, and from what you said, correct me if I'm mischaracterizing you, but you said that I have some masculine traits and I have some feminine traits. Therefore, I don't like the label of male or female. I like the label of non-binary.
No, I think that I just don't see masculinity or femininity as terms that are definable. I don't see the ones that are definable. I see them as useless. I don't see them as applying to me.
Well, they're socially constructed. We could agree with that. But that doesn't
Absolutely.
mean it's undefinable.
I do in fact agree, or I entirely disagree. I'm sorry that they are indefinable. Again, define a man. A man, someone that has a suit. A man, someone that has these sexual characteristics. Well, hey, that's not always the case across the board. You get into this this massive spiraling nothingness of definition that leads to nowhere socially, functionally, linguistically, in conversation. It's
Okay. Let's leave definitions aside.
okay.
I want to give what I think is like the how would I describe it? The typical case study of how a trans person becomes trans.
Oh,
Um,
yes. Sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to be talking about medical and social transition. Am I right?
um,
I believe
Perhaps this is
that was initially when we were having our heated gamer moments. That was the initial
yeah.
cause of the heated.
This does get into my critique of over medicalizing it.
Okay, sure.
So I believe that there are people born neurodivergent. You know, they're on the autistic spectrum, they're on the schizophrenic spectrum. There's a great piece of research that I have saved that demonstrates that people with gender dysphoria is identical to neurodivergence in just about every way in terms of prenatal hormone exposure, in terms of rates of left-handedness, even in terms of like finger length, also in terms of brain masculinization or let's call it brain mix. You know, it's like a mix of both genders. It's if you're a man, you have like a feminized brain. If you're a woman, you have sort of a masculinized brain. And so you take these neurodivergent individuals and then you expose them to a social contagion that is spreading on TikTok and social media. Um, and they begin to look inwardly because most people that are neurodivergent aren't chads. You know, they aren't like the most masculine people in the bunch.
Are you about to do the gender maxing thing? People transition so
Uh,
they can fuck more?
well, no, that's not what I was getting at.
Okay, sorry. Go on. That
No,
is
no, that's not what I'm getting at.
that's a meme in the community, but go on, sorry.
No, I think that these neurodivergent people are already prone to anxiety and depression because that's just typical for people who are neurodivergent, and they get hit with this rhetoric where they are sort of diagnosed, well, not diagnosed, but pushed towards thinking that they're trans because they don't fit perfectly in with masculine stereotypes. Therefore, they begin to think my problems are because I'm trans, and then they go into the medical establishment and they receive no pushback and are put on the pathway to
I believe it was either Cornell University or the WHO. I forget which study it is. Regardless, there is a study that shows that once teenagers who are genderqueer transition, they show the same rates of depression and anxiety of cis teenagers, showing that this is not specifically that trans people are not depressed or anxious.
well, these are highly flawed studies.
Are they?
We might
There
start
have
getting
been
into
studies
my
and meta studies and meta studies on these studies.
yeah, they're all like I'll explain to you. We might start getting into my general disrespect for the field of psychology because the field of psychology has just a terrible history of like it's of
So
first of
you
all
have all the
financial
right
corruption.
answers, and the entirety of psychology, biology, of gender studies, of all these people, you, Soda, without conducting any studies of yourself, I'm assuming you have all the right answers.
Good science. It takes good science to debunk bad science, and there's a lot of
I'm sorry, what?
It takes good science to debunk bad science. That seems like a good little phrase.
What is good science and what is bad science?
Bad science is wrong. Good science is right. It's okay. Like every one of these studies.
And what's wrong and right?
For ethical reasons,
how are we proving what's wrong and right within these studies? What's wrong and right science?
We can just look at the methodology.
Yes, within meta studies, would you say?
Well, no, in a meta study, they don't. That's not a method.
That's part of meta studies, is looking at how studies were studied.
Yeah, but they don't the psychology community has never accomplished anything in its history of existence. All it does is spread stigma and invent medicalize normal human behavior.
So, despite these studies,
let me get into.
Despite these studies being, because now we're talking about the study of studies. Despite these studies being carried out, and part of the scientific method is going in objective and without bias, receiving this data, coming to a conclusion, and then the meta study, looking at that study, and then coming to these different conclusions, saying yes, this is a good study or this is a bad study. And spoiler alert, the studies that are in my favor are broad, and they're big, girthy, and there's lots of them. There's so many just surrounding your face.
Because I believe
and then on top of that, there are meta studies of these meta stories. These meta studies. They're fucking enormous. And throughout all of this research, throughout all this objective research, they're wrong, or they're going in and they're like, we're lying about it. They get all the data and they lie about it. This does not happen, Soda.
Well, I have studies from, I can find studies put out by cigarette companies that say smoking is good for you. I don't understand this argument.
Yes, because they're selling something.
Yeah, so are the psychologists. So
how? What are they selling? Are they selling people on the idea that they get to be trans and then, oh, hey, I'm being genocided now?
No, the trans medicalization communities, this is like
What are trans people buying?
Hormones, surgeries.
So we should nationalize hormones and surgeries?
Actually, I kind of do because in Britain, the fact that they had a nationalized system, they were able to do an independent review of the Tavistock industry, of the sole provider of transgender healthcare in Britain.
Yes, and it's done under an unfortunately very, very turfy parliament that is starkly against trans people, with people like J.K. Rowling essentially writing legislation for the UK and for Scotland. Well, I'm not kidding.
Most of Europe has moved away from the affirmative care model. Britain, Scotland, Sweden, Finland, France.
Yes, to the very, very great harm of trans
America
people.
is really just behind the curve. America is like clinging on to something that has been getting disproven and pulled back in Europe.
Has not been getting disproven. Again, the APSA, the APA, the NHS.
Well, why are you only citing American sources when?
Oh no, Europe, I'm not. The World Health Organization, the NHS is a UK branch.
Paid for by China.
These are all global. These are all global studies. These are, I mean, more often than not, these are first world countries. Don't get me wrong, but I'm sorry. You just have
moving away from the affirmative care model doesn't mean that they've discredited the trans stuff entirely. They've just moved to a watch and wait type of model.
Yes, and that is harmful.
Be a step in the right direction.
No, that kills kids. Soda.
Definitely not. Telling them that they can be the opposite gender when they're not.
There's been a clinical endocrinology meta-analysis of folks who, mostly kids, let's say for our example, who undergo hormone replacement therapy or gender reassignment surgery, that shows that some 80% of individuals show an improvement in gender dysphoria. 78% who received that show an
Yeah, but there's no proven link between
report
gender
an improvement
dysphoria and
within
suicide.
within psychological symptoms. 72% report an improvement in sexual function, which kind of negates your castration thing. These are people who are able to perform sexually again. Like the quality. This isn't even to talk about people being alive, but on top of that, their quality of life is improving through transition, through physical
you make this argument,
and social transition.
The trans community is adamant in saying, if you try to say that gender dysphoria is a mental illness because it causes suicide rates, they will decry you. They'll say that that is not true because the suicide rate is caused by other factors such as bullying.
The trans community...
You can't have it both ways.
The trans community does not say that gender dysphoria is the root cause of suicidality. The root cause of suicidality, as held up by trans people, as talked about by trans people, is the lack of ability to to physically or to socially transition.
This is something that you've created, though. You've put this seed in their head, then
is that a me thing? Yeah. When trans people are at face of harassment and
you are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy when you subliminalize.
I walk outside and I'm begging, being genderqueer, me, Commie Bravo, I'm begging to be fucking murdered. I'm begging for insert genocidal rhetoric or legislation here. I'm begging for whatever abuse that begets, and that's me again. I have it good. Okay, I can still pass when the gender death camps hit. I have it pretty good. But if a trans woman goes outside, are they just simply by proxy of existing, asking to be sexually abused, physically abused, stalked, harassed, verbally abused?
No, they're not asking, but people with people who are neurodivergent are seen as vulnerable unless they're victimized more frequently.
So how do we treat? So
like, is a limping deer asking to be attacked by a tiger? Not really, but that's just how tigers operate.
Calling yourself a predator is not the win you think it is. I guarantee you. Do you?
No, I'm saying predator.
So how do we? That is not the way. I promise you, Soda. That is not the one you think it is.
People who predate on vulnerable people target vulnerable people.
So people like Matt Walsh, people who follow Matt Walsh, who espouse that same rhetoric. Now, see, if you are saying that this is, it's up for debate. If transness itself is not and gender queerness is not, as defined by the WHO, who recently just dropped this, is not defined as a mental illness. Now, gender dysphoria is, but Soda, do you know how you treat gender dysphoria?
Get off anime. Stop watching TikTok.
True. Do you know how you get off? Do you know how you get off? Do you know how you treat gender dysphoria? Seriously.
Yeah. Stop watching anime. Get off TikTok.
I'm being serious right now.
I'm being serious, dude. That's literally how you stop it.
You treat gender dysphoria by socially and physically transitioning.
No, that's going to create more gender. You're causing... if you look at it's pretty well documented
80% of individuals given a clinical endocrinology meta-analysis of hormone replacement therapy and gender reassignment surgery shows that individuals who undergo those things, 80% of whom
highly flawed
show an improvement. They are not highly flawed. I'm sorry, you can't just...
I can also find studies that show that when you zap people with electricity, their depression improves. This is a priori ridiculous. I mean,
look,
this is something you ran away from before.
I'm not running away from this.
The same
80% of individuals who go through transition show an improvement within gender dysphoria. They no longer feel...
No, they do not. You're relying entirely on self...
And in fact, they go through
polls.
What is called
you just
gender...
ask somebody. This is not science. You can't just ask somebody.
No, this is not polls. This is not polls. These are people that work with trained professionals for months and years, sometimes decades, Soda. This takes a very long time. This does not happen overnight. These studies are not
No,
conducted
it's based on
overnight.
self-reports. How is the therapist going to know unless they ask you,
Because
are you feeling better? And
they
then you
take a
say, yeah, I guess I'm feeling better.
comprehensive
Which is
approach.
not,
Do you think that these people are idiotic enough to say, "Oh, hey, do you still suffer under gender dysphoria?" And they say, "No," and they're like, "Okay," and that's it. And they just
yeah, I
fucking
mean,
leave. No,
this is
Soda, this
exactly what
never
happens.
happens. This
This is
never
why this
happens.
is
You
not
live in a
real
fucking different
science.
reality. You live in a different reality. This does not happen.
I mean, just as a personal example, I was given SSRIs once, and I didn't actually feel any difference at all. But when my therapist asked me, "Are you feeling better?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess," because in my head, that's what I'm supposed to say. I know that's what they want to hear. This is just not real science. This is not a valid way of
Damn, then I
extrapolating
would
data.
highly
This is
recommend
how
that you
they
find a
entirely.
better, more well-equipped, well-versed, comprehensively endowed psychologist. I'm sorry, like the
You mean a
system
turf?
failed you. The system failed
That's the
you.
opposite of what trans people do. If somebody puts up resistance, then oftentimes they just that Chloe Colgirl, she says that the first endocrinologist that she visited said, "No, you're too young. I don't want
I
to put
don't
you
know
on
who that is, and I
with
do
you."
not care about
It's,
it. I do not care about anecdotes. I don't care about the 3 people that you have pulled up. Okay,
I
this
don't
is.
care about flawed studies that are bought and paid for by companies like AbbVie. So
Hey,
like,
what's up, Mr. D? No, these are not. These are nationalized services that are not. These are not people that are being paid to like shill this shit. They're not selling anything.
I want you to grapple with this because when we were discussing this on chat before you sort of ran away from this, you oppose electroshock therapy, but the same community that says electroshock therapy is life-saving treatment is also saying that affirmative care is life-saving treatment.
The
Now you
way
believe them on one
these are
case, but not on
entirely
the other.
separate things, but the way that we use electroshock therapy these days is entirely different
So you
from
do
conversion
support
therapy.
electroshock. So you do support electroshock therapy.
In certain forms that are useful and have been studied and are currently still being studied. There's a reason why you can't go in and say, "Hey, I'm depressed, give me the brain zappies." It's still being ongoing. I can't speak to it, but no, okay, hey, broadly, no, hey, brain zappies, I'm probably not going to do it. If it's useful, great.
They're actually still like horrible abuses. There's like a pretty famous school for kids where they strapped electrical ankle bracelets to them and just basically zapped them anytime they misbehaved. And an example of them misbehaving, if you suddenly become incontinent by, becoming zapped by electricity, for example, and you pee on the floor, they're gonna zap you again because you peed on the floor.
What
So
does this have to do with trans people, Soda?
it's the same community that like if there was a study that said waterboarding people alleviated depression, would you be like, oh well, the science is in. We should be waterboarding people. Clearly, it
No,
works.
because that doesn't happen.
Electroshock therapy is just another form of torture. I mean, it's inflicting brain damage on a person. That's the goal of it is to inflict brain damage. It's not that different from a lobotomy.
I do not understand what your position is. Gender affirming care does not look like brain shockies. Okay? It might be being tested potentially, but what gender affirming care looks like oftentimes
What I'm
is social
saying is that
transition, and if it's not that, then it's hormone replacement therapy.
the very notion that a psychological issue can be resolved with breast implants is a priori ridiculous.
That's not.
Any study that even says that it helps is
No one
obviously a priori wrong.
no one is saying that breast implants alone are going to help fix gender dysphoria.
Well, I didn't
What
say
does help?
alone. I said
What
as
does help, as has been studied over and over and over, is both a
in a broad
combination
way by people
of
who are bought and paid for.
that does not happen. This is all stuff inside your head. I promise you. Oh God, I promise you. Please log off.
What do you mean? The entire psychological community has been doing this for a long time. Like the SSRI scandal, the medicalization of
What
depression.
SSRI scandal? Yo, hey, SSRIs help people. So they don't help me,
Yeah, they
but
help
they
like
do
they
help
help
some
like
people.
15. Yeah, they help like 15% of people, but they're
Great.
just kind of giving out like they're highly incentivized to give out, and you also have like these sort of I don't know if you'd call them lobbyists who go to doctors, and I think there's an example of like them getting strippers to. I don't know.
Okay,
It's
so
just a very corrupt system. And then you have like the depression, where they tried to for years say that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance.
we are running away.
Really,
We are just galloping into the sun over here. Okay, what these studies show is that what fixes gender dysphoria is not just breast implants. It is
gender
both
dysphoria does not need to be
It is both a
fixed.
combination.
Gender dysphoria
It
has
is
not
not
been
a.
proven to be anything that needs to be medicalized.
It
It
absolutely
has not
does,
been
because
proven
people are
across.
killing themselves, and I would really like for people to
No,
not
but
kill
they're killing
themselves.
themselves because they
So
have
how we
comorbid
fix that is through physical
PTSD.
transition, and is through medical transition, and social transition, and
No,
therapy.
there's no
It
evidence.
takes
There's
a
no
it takes
evidence.
a
Please show me the
broad
evidence that gender dysphoria causes suicidality.
Okay.
Because they say that it's bullying. There's also comorbid disorders such as PTSD, anxiety, things like this.
I know you don't like the APA, but here you go, buddy. Okay, go with God. Inshallah. I'll pull this up. Pull this up here too.
Yep. I don't think that this worked.
Did it not?
Oh wait, maybe. This is understanding transgender people's gender identity and gender expression.
Mm-hmm. This is from the APA. This is a general pamphlet that they have, with some sources cited.
Gender dysphoria, Control F.
According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders,
They don't even make the
DSM-5, people who experience intense, persistent gender incongruence can be given a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. Some people contend that the diagnosis inappropriately pathologizes gender non-congruence and should be eliminated. Others argue that it is essential to retain the diagnosis to ensure access to care. The ICD is under revision, and there may be changes to its current classification of intense, persistent gender incongruence and gender identity disorder.
Okay, are you gonna stand by this? Because they didn't even make the argument that you were making. They argue that it is essential to ensure care.
Mm-hmm.
Care for what? You didn't prove that gender dysphoria
For gender dysphoria
is a pathology. When
is-
really it just seems to be gender non-congruence that's being over-medicalized.
You keep saying over medicalized, but I think you just don't see gender dysphoria as a real thing, even though in an earlier
I had
message,
gender dysphoria, by the way. We should talk about this.
I did actually want to talk about that a little bit. So, the APSA additionally made a statement on reparative therapy, more often than not kind of referred to as conversion therapy, saying that such directed efforts are against the fundamental principles of psychoanalytic treatment and often result in substantial psychological pain by reinforcing damaging internalized attitudes. Now, I'm really, really, really curious about your gender dysphoria and your experience with that.
Yeah, I was like pretty depressed in like 10th grade.
Okay.
Probably just because of my parents getting divorced and, being on the internet all the time, and I started smoking weed. And I was also watching a lot of anime and stuff. And I was not really aware of trans stuff at the time, so I didn't have the language of calling myself gender dysphoric. I came up with my own word for it. I called it Moe syndrome, which I just defined as the desire to be a soft, sweet girl, And I could prove this. I wrote something at the time. I can't prove this without doxing myself. But I wrote a short story at the time. I assure you, it's the most gender dysphoric shit you ever read. It's truly the deranged rambling of a depressed teenager. And I just desisted. Well, first of all, let me say that it was always purely sexual for me, which, is always like an element of arousal to it. So once I learned the term autogynephiliac, I gravitated towards that as a descriptive for it. And how I desisted was I just started valuing conservative lifestyle more. I stopped watching anime and started watching videos of people building houses in the
Conservatives
mountains.
like anime.
I hate anime. Anime has like the most offensive portrayals of women out of any media ever.
Absolutely, but conservatives really like anime. They like their lolly shit too.
Yeah, the libertarians certainly do. Listen.
That is unfortunately part of conservatism. So, see, I hear that, Soda, and my heart genuinely breaks for you. See, I see that as a violent casting out, a rejection, a mental rejection, and genuine coat posting about an unfortunately tragic situation you were a part of.
What?
You talk about autogynephilia. This is something that, boy oh boy, it is rare that it exists. However, let's say we're looking at a young hot thottie, all right, and she's like bending over, and you're like, damn, that's hot as fuck. Now, see, most people would see that and be like, okay, that's hot. You know, I'm not gonna like get my dick out and just start like jerking it to that, but hey, that's pretty hot. Now, when people, they don't want to necessarily be that woman, but they can be like, hey, these are some characteristics that I think are hot. Now, when people watch porn, let's say, you know, oh boy, did my fucking microphone test? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No shit. Oh wait, there we go. I fixed it. When people are watching porn, I've been told this happens quite a few times, unfortunately. When people are watching porn, they're not assuming that they're the ones getting railed. They don't seek enjoyment by them getting railed, right? They assume that they are this like masculine person that's like, I'm gonna jump your bones, right?
Well, I think what happens with a pornography addiction is that people, you
We're
could call it
talking about
voyeurism, but
we're talking about autogynephilia, okay? So
well, I do think the two are linked because pornography tends to make it so that you look
okay,
at
then let's
sex
just assume that
in,
this
like,
is
a
someone who isn't
third-person
porn
view.
addicted. Okay, I know the trans community is horny, but you know, I don't think that they're all fucking degen porn addicts. When people transition, it's not like they get all the surgeries and then stand in front of a mirror and just fuck around. You know, they like play with themselves nonstop. This isn't something that happens.
Well, no, they've been sort of conditioned, you know, like Pavlov's dog, to develop a sense of arousal with each step along the way.
This does not happen. However, even assuming that this does happen, their quality of life improves, and they're still alive.
Compared to what?
To being dead?
There's no control group. Like, if you gave cis people testosterones and
what do you
suddenly
mean there's no
they
control
felt more
group of dead people, of people that kill themselves?
Yeah, no,
Because
I mean,
they're not allowed to transition.
When you give people medication, you need like a control group of like a healthy population. Like, if you gave cis people testosterone, the expected result of giving cis people testosterone is that they'll feel more confident, more assertive, and
we're not talking about cis people getting testosterone. We're talking about trans people transitioning and how this improves their quality of life.
It doesn't. You're citing flawed studies by a community that still supports
the clinical endocrinology medical meta-analysis of HRT and gender reassignment surgery shows you live in an elseworld. I don't care about your conspiracies. Your conspiracy posting right now.
The APA has
have these stories made up in your head, and you're arguing from them. In the meantime, instead of doing that, I'm going to go ahead and go off the material studies that I actually have in front of me, which say that 80% of individuals who undergo HRT and gender reassignment surgery see an improvement within gender dysphoria. 78% see an improvement in psychological symptoms. 72% see an improvement in sexual function, and 72%
what's the length of time?
Of several dozens of years, decades even.
Cite that. Yeah, show me that study. Because the longest term meta-analysis that I've seen says that suicide rates of trans people are highest after transitioning. And the APA has admitted that there is a dearth of long-term follow-up studies of trans individuals, and they claim that it's due to,
What are you talking about? The
anti-trans
1
bigotry.
to maybe 2% of people that potentially maybe might feel a little bit of regret, but even then, those are the people who don't see any social transition. These are people whose conditions around them don't improve, but they've transitioned, and so they still feel like shit.
What? No, that's not what I'm talking about.
I don't know. You were getting there.
I'm more likely to talk about the 90% of children with gender dysphoria who desist when they're left alone. If you just leave a kid alone, their gender dysphoria is going to just evaporate. And that's been proven by and just to show how corrupt this is, that was proven by studies by a guy named Zucker, and he was fired for this because he went against the cult-like narrative. And
I don't care about these weird pseudoscience hacks. Go look at that.
No, and he won a lawsuit.
Go look at that Sci-Hub meta-analysis of the enormous meta-analysis of over 90 cross-sectional studies analyzing a relationship between. Oh, whoops! I'm sorry. That's that's immigration. Might be.
Yeah, it's making me do something.
Hold on. This is the one I meant to send you. The other. We're not debating immigration right now. Oh, boy. We're not. Ah, shit. Well, whatever. There you go, chat. I'm a boomer. Have fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of legal immigration. It's fine.
Morgan is fine. I'm not looking to change mine. See, Soda has a big old heart and a big old brain. He's just not using it. Okay, so let's pull this up together. This enormous meta-analysis on transgender people and the effect that gender transition has on their health. Of 56 studies, 52 indicated, and this is the study of studies, 52 indicated that transitioning has a positive effect on the mental health of transgender people. 4 indicated that it had mixed or no results. 0 studies, Soda, showed that it indicated negative results or showed harm.
I'm not particularly interested in a meta-analysis that's looking at a bunch of short-term studies.
This is hey,
because you need to have
you are
long-term
so
follow-up.
concerned. You are so concerned about these bought and paid for vague people, which gets you get into some weird JQing territory there. You're really concerned about these studies? There you go. Have fun. This is a study of studies. This is a study of studies, a study of studies of studies. I don't know how much further we need to go down this rabbit hole. Maybe we can have a study of this study of the study of the studies.
No, I just want long-term studies. Like, I want studies that are actually valid.
Mm-hmm. It's in there.
No, the APA admits there's a dearth of studies of long-term, and they say it's because of bias against transgender people.
No.
The most comprehensive long-term study that I've seen suggests that
is fine.
It is highest after transitioning. And again, this is just like all you're doing is you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know that suicide is a social contagion, right? I don't need to explain that to you.
How do we? Okay, I care about people not killing themselves. Do you know what these studies show, Soda? Do you know what even anecdotes, something that you're a big fan of, show?
They show that people who seek transgender care and then are refused to kill themselves more often. But this is something that you have created. When you tell kids that you need this life-saving
I don't tell people, hey, trust me, if I could trans people, I would be sending those waves over to you right now. This isn't something that I'm doing.
No, you are. I'm contributing to the social contagion of suicide. Like, for example, I was on that stream where you read where you very irresponsibly read the suicide note of a trans person, which I guarantee you a lot of there's at least.
No, I think Eden Knight's story is something that I know that you were very empathetic towards.
Of course, I'm always empathetic towards people that kill themselves, but it should not be read. It should not be publicized.
The plight of Eden Knight was very unique, and I feel like necessary in that instance to understand the circumstances of. And I am also empathetic towards people that that kill themselves. And to do that, see, because I want people to not kill themselves, I propose things that work, which has been shown to be social and physical transition, as well as maybe a combination of a few other things. But these are things you want
read
these people
something
back in
that
the
is
closet.
a suicide contagion. You're not listening to me. Reading somebody's suicide note, publishing it widespread like that, is guaranteed to incentivize to be the trigger for some trans people out there to kill themselves.
No, the
you not
general
appreciate that?
outpouring of support from trans people and trans allies and the
No, not the
genderqueer
general
community.
outpouring. What you're like totally changing the goalpost here. Suicide is a social contagion. You're not supposed to read people's suicide notes on in mass in the public square.
Okay, Soda, how do we fix the social
supposed to do that.
contagion of suicide within trans people?
Oh, there's media guidelines for suicide, and we can look at that, and you can see how the trans community routinely breaks this.
Okay, but given the studies, how do we fix the suicidality of trans people and genderqueer people?
The suicidality of trans people is roughly the same as bisexual people. It's not even like a real concern. Most trans people never
How do
attempt
we
suicide.
fix the suicidality of trans people and the genderqueer community?
Okay, you need to get them away from ideological leftism, because leftism has been shown to be a strong predictor of mental health outcomes.
Is there
Also,
a study
we
showing
need to get them to stop
I'm sorry, no, hold on.
as,
I've been giving you studies. I would really love to see a study showing that leftism is the cause of suicidality within the trans community.
I don't think I have a study on hand, just an
So
article.
how do we fix, outside of
That's it.
op-eds, how do we fix the suicidality of trans people?
The suicidality of trans people is the same as bisexual. Why are you
Okay,
being
how do we, Soda, I need an answer. How do we fix the suicidality of trans people, given the evidence, the wide swath of evidence that we have? How do we fix it?
You leave them alone. You stop
You
spreading
socially
social
ostracize
contagion to
them and leave them alone?
No. You tell them that they're not trans. Stop watching anime. Get off TikTok. Stop looking at porn so much, and go to a mental health professional and get treated for your autism or PTSD or things that have been proven to
There are
cause
plenty of
gender
trans people
dysphoria.
that aren't autistic. There's a hand.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trans people that aren't autistic, and there are some trans people that are autistic. There's a lot of cis people that are autistic too that
Well,
don't show
autism
any,
is kind of there's
any
other
iota.
neurodivergent disorders. There's like schizophrenia and other things like that they could have. If you look at it entirely, gender dysphoria is exactly like a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's like
the,
it's not
the
like you just need to
qualitative
treat
causative thing, huh? So how do we fix this? You said we go and talk to mental health professionals.
Stop spreading a
That's
social
what I-
contagion that's
that's what I
encouraging
agree
people to kill themselves. The trans community is encouraging kids to kill themselves
No,
when
they're
you
not.
present a massive, completely irresponsible
There's
suicide
a lot of love and
epidemic.
outpouring and solidarity I see from the trans community. I don't.
In fact,
Maybe on
one of the
4chan,
media
but-
guidelines for reporting on suicide is to not refer to it as an epidemic. Like the trans community is completely irresponsible and causing kids to kill themselves. It's
not-
really that simple.
I think you are conflating a lot of things right now, and you also called it a contagion.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly like
is an
emo was. You cutting yourself with social contagion. Anorexia, it spreads exactly the same as
Okay, so how do you fix
those.
those things? How do you fix people being emo outside of growing up? How do you fix anorexia?
How do you fix anorexia? I mean, that's a good question. I want to look more into that, but in
I can
general,
tell
you
you.
need to get them away from the sources that are putting this thought in their head. Although it can be difficult sometimes
Can I
because
tell you what
sometimes
it
their
is?
friends are the one contributing to it.
Mm-hmm. Can I
But-
tell you what that looks like?
What?
It's through social support, and it's through medical guidance. Now, do
I
you
mean, I
know?
agree, social
Now,
support.
do you
I don't-
know what I'm going to say? Which I have said multiple times. How we fix the suicidality of trans within the trans community. How we prevent this. How we lead to having more kids being alive, and how we God willing, see a quality of life improvement. It
Yeah,
is
stop spreading the social contagion
it
in the
is
first
through
place.
it is through social support and medical support. And what that looks like is transition. This has been shown study after study after study, and has been further proven by those studies of those studies, and then even
It
more
is
so
not
further
been.
proven by the study of those studies of those studies.
It definitely has not been. I can start linking studies that say that puberty blockers don't work. I didn't
They
want to
don't
start getting
work.
into studies. Yeah.
I
And
far be it from me
hormone
from knowing that. This is a first. This
replacement
is
therapy
a
does not work. I can start linking. I really don't want to start just linking studies because I have like a dozen of them. And they're not easy to digest. So
the regret rate. I think we can kind of shift things over here.
the regret rate. I mean, you're talking about a cult of where. Have you seen that movie with Philip Seymour Hoffman on Scientology?
Fuck. I might not have. I'm not gonna lie. I think I probably had it queued. It's not there. What is it? Fucking.
I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I think that might have actually been one. I don't care about movies right now, though.
There's a good example of the hypnosis technique that was used by Scientology, and
Transhypnosis.
it is exactly the same as this breaking the egg metaphor that's been used by the trans community. If you have somebody sitting in front of you and they go, "No, I'm not this. No, I'm not this," and you just keep being persistent, and then finally when they say, "Okay, yes, I am that," just to sort of appease you, this has a hypnosis effect.
Yeah, so this doesn't happen. I'm sorry, Soda. See,
It does
what
happen. It's
you
called
what you were
breaking the
looking
egg.
at,
There's a name for it.
Soda. So what you were looking at is a movie, whereas unfortunately, see, I am based in reality, and I'm also just generally based. See, when people suffering under gender dysphoria go to a medical professional, part of that line of questioning is, hey, there might maybe be something else going on. Let's kind of look down that road. But that's part of comprehensive care, is taking a cumulative approach to gender dysphoria and treating gender dysphoria. These are this again, treatment
Yeah,
does
you
not
kind of
happen
cherry
overnight.
pick like American psychological organization, even though most of the world has not gotten behind the trans organization. Most of Europe has moved away from it. America is like uniquely stuck in its past, stuck on the wrong side of history here. And you're citing their studies as if they're not going to be proven wrong in 50 years, just like they were with lobotomization.
This
just like
reminds
they
me
were
very
with
much
everything else.
of the rhetoric surrounding queer communities back in the 80s. You were making those
I
same
agree, yeah,
arguments.
because they used to say that it was a mental illness that needed to be treated, when in reality, later down the line, that was proven wrong.
And so these people just exist.
What?
So queer people, like trans people, simply exist.
Yeah, they've existed in every culture. Unlike trans people, they have existed in every culture in history.
Okay. So if these people exist, I don't
Not
want them
trans people.
I don't want them killing themselves. I want their quality of life to improve. See, I care about harm reduction. I also generally care about people, and I want to do right by them. And fuck, Soda, I want to do right by you too. And God,
You don't think it's a coincidence
genuinely
that
wish
the
I could have
suicide
been there?
epidemic of youth is like suicide of youth is increasing? Like you guys are completely delusional. The
I don't know, dog. You've
American
been conspiracy
psychological
posting
community
for the
has
past
accomplished nothing.
2 hours now.
It's kind of mainstream to bash the psychology community. Like I stick to mainstream criticisms. Like it's mainstream to bash SSRIs. This is not like this
God,
is
if
like
you want to talk
bashing the
about paid
opioid
fucking
crisis.
studies, your side is espousing this genocidal conspiracy rhetoric and in betwixt selling cum mugs.
No, you guys are literally taking people with internalized homophobia and presuming that they'll be suicidal one day. By the way, a trans person doesn't even need to present as suicidal to receive this treatment. That
Okay.
it's just assumed that they will one day become suicidal.
Yeah, it is to help alleviate the symptoms of gender dysphoria. Yes, not all people suffering under gender dysphoria are not suicidal.
you have still yet to prove that gender dysphoria causes suicidality. There is no proof of this.
It unequivocally does. I mean, there's a handful of studies. Yeah, you don't have to be suicidal to transition. That's a really foolish.
Well, if this was a last resort thing, I'd be much more okay with that. Much like how electroshock therapy is.
Do you know what happens
generally a last
with
resort
treating
thing.
it as a last resort thing? Do you know what happens to kids who are still in the closet? They receive harassment.
You
some
literally tell
some
them
70,
to kill themselves in that
70
situation.
Hold on.
Literally,
can we
you tell
bring it
kids
back
if you
down?
don't receive treatment, you're gonna
Soda, I'm
end
gonna
up
have to mute
suicidal
you
and
here
then
soon, buddy.
suicidal.
So, kids who remain in the closet are more open to harassment from their parents, from their peers, and then that does increase suicidal ideation. Treating this as a last resort option.
In the closet about what? Some made up identification that it doesn't exist in nature? I mean, how can you be in the closet about some made up thing?
Dog, fucking sex characteristics in nature are a very, very broad sweeping thing. You do not want to go down that road. And also, hey, yo, spoiler alert, computers don't exist in nature. We kind of just did this.
What?
So we do a lot of
what does
things
that
that
mean?
we do a lot of things that are against nature. Yeah, appeal to nature is very foolish, my friend.
Well, no,
I expected a
guys-
lot more from you.
No,
if
it's
I'm gonna
good
be
because
real.
in other communities you can find gay people. You can find lesbian people in other communities.
Yes,
but
and you can
cannot
find trans people historically,
No, you
before,
cannot.
during, and after antiquity. I'm sorry, you just live in a different world. You can keep saying no, but this has been historically proven over and over and over and over and over and over.
I've looked at these studies, dude. It's just third and fourth gender. These are not trans people. These are just effeminate males and
trans
masculine
people
men.
and genderqueer people have existed within indigenous countries, or indigenous nations, within Eastern and Western.
The concept of gender doesn't exist in indigenous cultures, dude. There can't be genderqueer people. The concept of gender was invented in like the 50s with like no evidence. You know what the evidence for gender is and gender identification is? They look at like 4-year-olds and they say that this is about the time that they're able to identify their gender, and like 90% of them identify as their birth sex, and then 10% of them just get it wrong. And they present this
10%
as
of them
proof
just
that
get it
gender-
wrong. That is the most
Yeah.
brain dead take I have seen on studies.
How is that brain? No,
Just get it
their
wrong?
take is the brain dead take. They take a 4-year-old. Oh well, clearly this 4-year-old saying he's a girl is really onto something. Like,
Sure.
based on what? Let me ask you a question. How do you prove somebody is trans? Like,
No. I really want to talk about this 4-year-old for a minute. So, what's your solution? Your solution is to beget this constant barrage of harm to a 4-year-old? To say,
No,
no,
just
you're
say-
wrong, and to continue that into what age?
just explain to them what a man and a woman is, and they should be able to understand. Oh no, you're not a woman.
Soda, I guarantee you 4-year-olds cannot conceptualize gender.
Yeah, well, yeah, it might take some.
Indoctrination,
4-year-olds
grooming,
are-
I dare say.
No, just he's gotta probably have to explain it more than once. It might take a couple of years before they finally understand it.
Indoctrination,
These
grooming,
kids
I
might
dare
just be
say.
late bloomers. Well, the study itself says that 4-year-olds tend. That's what the study suggests, is that they tend to understand male and female categories around the age of 4. But what I'm saying is that the people who are identifying as the opposite sex are clearly just late bloomers. Like there's no evidence that they are correctly identifying some internal feeling that's based on gender stereotypes.
I'm sorry, you're just ontologically wrong on this. I have no other... Even assuming your point, again, you fail on the old harm reduction arena here. However, see, let's take this 4-year-old, for example. I feel like
You
that
really
should be
think
some...
that you guys are the ones reducing harm by
Soda, I
encouraging kids
will
to kill
mute you.
themselves?
Soda, I've given you ample opportunity, okay? Chill. So, see, let's take this 4-year-old, for example. If they are gender questioning, sure, let's explore that just for a little bit, okay? As a treat, just a little, have fun, okay? And then we kind of keep exploring that, you know? And the comprehensive route
And what, saying, oh, maybe you are a woman? What does gender exploring mean? How are you using
Yes,
that
I'm
word?
telling a 4-year-old they're a woman. No, the part of the comprehensive analysis.
maybe.
So part of the comprehensive analysis that goes into psychology is saying, hey, okay, there might be some validity in this feeling. You know, you might be suffering under
How
gender
could there be
dysphoria.
validity in that?
Soda, I will mute you. So that is the route that I would like to take, is not negating any pathway and ensuring the most amount of good is done for this child over a very long amount of time, so that this kid has the autonomy and the understanding and the agency to improve their surroundings. And I would hope that the conditions around them are such that as well.
Well, no, you're just grooming kids if you do that. I mean, and you're gonna put them on the path.
Grooming
to
has been a
suicidality.
bastardized word. I need you to be more
Didn't you
specific
use it
with your
earlier?
rhetoric. Yes, as a meme.
Well, I used it. Yeah, I used it to get back at you for using the meme. So we're even. All right.
It's not grooming kids. It's not saying, yes, you are a little girl, little 4-year-old boy. It's saying, hey, you know, that might be a thing. Let's look around, you know. Let's give this some air. And then this happens over months and months and months of questioning of different tactics here and there. And then maybe at some point when the choice is right, maybe they might potentially go through puberty blockers. And what that looks like is reversible should they so choose. It is rare that they do, but in instances where they do, that's fine. Hey, you know what reversing that looks like? You fucking go off them, and then your puberty hits.
That's cool.
Do you know what I'm curious if you know what the argument against puberty blockers is.
I can assume a few things, but hit me with it, buddy.
No, I'm curious if you know, because I feel like most people
Hit me with it.
can't steel man. Is that it creates persistence. Without puberty blockers, 90% of these kids are going to desist, but with puberty blockers, the vast majority of them
And what's
are
the
going to be
alternative to it, Soda?
To leave them alone. It just desists
The
naturally.
alternative to it is dead kids.
No, dude, what? This is so asinine.
The alternative to it is either dead kids, or it is a lower quality of life and higher rates of regret than people that do go on puberty blockers. People more so regret, trans people more so regret not being able to go on puberty blockers than they do regret going on puberty blockers.
That actually discredits your entire theory, because you have adult people who are unsatisfied with their transition.
Yes,
and
because they weren't because they suffer under the system that you espouse right now, because they are under an unsupportive system. Because they aren't given the ability to socially and medically transition. And they feel regret and mourning for a life that they could have had.
No, it's literally actually that they don't feel feminine enough, and if they went on puberty blockers, well, because of cultural standards of beauty.
No, why don't they feel effeminate enough, Soda? What part of their life makes them feel like, man, I'm not effeminate enough? What could have helped that, Soda?
Not watching.
No memes, no memes. Okay, what could have helped?
Meme. Standards of beauty are a very pernicious part of society.
I am genuinely disappointed with how unfathomably bad faith you're being right now. As we were talking about, the part that makes them less effeminate is the fact that they went through male or female puberty, and the thing that would have helped them with that is going on puberty blockers at a younger age. And in addition,
this is the grass is always greener argument. So they're currently unsatisfied.
No, this is a very material thing that happens situation.
But if we just added one more treatment, then they'll be satisfied. Even
sure.
though they can never actually be a woman.
I'm fine with that, buddy. I'm fine with that. They can have as many goddamn procedures as they like, so long as they're happy, healthy, and alive. I don't give a fuck what they look like. I promise you.
They are not, dude.
I do not give a fuck what that looks like. You really seem to care about the dick and balls, dog. Do you know how many fucking teenagers get their little foreskinnies chopped off? And the regret rate with that.
Yeah, I mean that you can have a discussion. I don't want to get into that now, but you can have a discussion about that. Well, I would say that the problem with that is that that seems politically impossible, while what I'm arguing seems politically possible
Yes,
to achieve. So
because you are arguing under theocratic fascism, which is unfortunately a very very viable
don't you
history
support
that
the
is
Black Panthers?
absolutely unquestionably.
They're literally theocratic fascists.
The
I don't
Black
understand
Panthers are
you.
not theocratic fascists.
Yes, they are. They're Islamic nationalists. Like,
No,
what are you
the
talking about?
black nationalists, the black Israelites are not the Black Panthers, buddy. Ooh,
Black Israelites?
I
No,
really
not
fucking hate
not
to
the
break
Black
that to you.
Israelites.
No, these are not the same groups. Anyway, so can we go back to talking about how people's lives are being improved and how these lives are alive
There's
under
no
my
good
system and
evidence for
not
this.
yours?
What are you talking about? Look at modern society. The trans youth suicide rate is higher than ever.
Because
It's
we
raising
keep
specifically
going
among
back to
left-wing
this.
girls and left-wing
Oh,
boys.
I'm
It's
gonna fucking kill myself because of in a game of GTA Online because of fucking the
even just
dysphoria
identifying
of this
as
conversation. You're killing me, Soda.
I'm sorry, your
What
worldview makes
what
zero
helps?
sense that you can treat mental illness by turning somebody into the opposite sex. This is just a priori ridiculous, dude. It doesn't matter what studies
Because
you
of
produce. Like,
oh, okay. So it doesn't matter what material conditions are around me. It doesn't matter the genuine things that exist around us. That doesn't matter to you.
no, we can look at like,
Okay,
yeah, we should
dog,
use
I'm
common
over
sense a
this.
little
I
bit.
can't. I'm sorry if you aren't basing your fucking arguments in reality. I've got nothing for you, dog. I can list you. I can link you a handful of goddamn articles. But if you just reject the reality that's around you right now, I've got nothing for you. You live in an elseworld of conspiracy and theocratic fascist drivel. I've got nothing.
No.
And I'm genuinely
My
disappointed that
criticisms of
somebody like you.
psychology
I'm
are mainstream.
genuinely
Don't call them
disappointed.
conspiratorial.
It is it is unironically, definitionally. Hey, I care a lot about the description of words and using them descriptively. You suffer under a theocratic fascist conspiracy brain. You are
Hey,
co-posting
name one thing the psychology community has ever accomplished.
a fucking handful of things. Are you
Okay, go
kidding
ahead.
me? Prescribing, treating anxiety, depression, prescribing,
No.
treating gender dysphoria,
Anxiety is on the
improving.
rise. Depression is on the
Yeah,
rise.
and
Gender
why
dysphoria
is
on
that?
the
It's
rise.
because of people on your fucking side of the aisle that refuse to improve the material conditions of people around them. Meanwhile, psychologists and are shaking you people, are slapping you across the face with study after study after study saying this will help, this will help, this will help. And you guys
And
are
it's
like,
not helping at all. It's
and you
making
guys are
stuff
like,
worse.
no,
Depression is
fuck it.
higher.
I'm not going to
Anxiety
do
is
anything
higher.
about it.
Suicide
And
rates of
then
youth is
because of
higher.
that, because everyone now has this fucking dissonance of, wow, these are things that can fucking help us for a goddamn minute. Like, hey, if we do this, if we institute this, this will help. And people refuse to do it. So yes, people's material circumstances are getting worse and worse and worse. And people on your side of the aisle, honestly, even Democrats, but mostly people on your side of the aisle refuse to help. And so,
No,
yes,
conservatives
anxiety
have
and
lower
depression are
overall
indeed on
suicide
the
rates
rise.
because they are not privy to this. They don't obsess over identity, or they 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 believe in a higher power, which has been proven to help.
Based, Morgan.
A belief in free will is proven to help. But when you look at the left, they have this sort of materialistic view of their own mental health, where they think that they are slaves to their biological circumstances. You know, the the dopamine. You know, depression being caused by chemical imbalance, a chemical imbalance theory. This promotes depression and stuff because you're telling people that they have no way out, and this is created by the psychology community. Everything that they've put out lately either increases mental health problems or increases stigma. I mean, look at I asked my autistic friend about this. I asked him,
Oh, I love anecdotes.
do you think the stigma against autism has been increasing lately? Because to me, it seems like the stigma against autism has been like gotten way out of hand lately, and it's entirely the fault of these psychologists who try to paint autism as just like a socially awkward incel almost, and it just like turns it into an insult. Like schizophrenic is an insult. Like bipolar is like an insult. These are
Okay,
just
well, unfortunately, we're not talking about autism. We're talking about gender
oh,
dysphoria,
we're
and
talking
I
about
actually
psychology
and I actually
broadly and
asked
how
my
it's
friend.
not
I
accomplished
actually asked
anything.
2 of my friends who are trans what they thought of all of this, and they said yes. The way that I think you can prevent suicidality and increase the quality of life is through transition. In fact, there are people. This isn't
you
even a
asked
joke.
cult members.
In fact, 3 friends. I guarantee you. In chat, go do it now. Why not? And then outside of them as well, I asked like 75
hold on,
other
I was
people.
also a
Actually,
trans person.
I asked like some 200 other people, and they all said the same thing as me. So I guess I win. So I'm sorry. We're doing anecdotes. I have a trans friend. I have an autistic friend.
Like there are much more obvious explanations for why a person would feel gender dysphoric other than that they are just magically a woman somehow. For example, they could have autism. This could be a manifestation of an obsessive compulsive disorder. They could have a
Yes.
history of
Soda.
sexual trauma that manifests itself as gender dysphoria.
These are all things that are questioned under comprehensive care within medical
No, that's considered.
professionals.
No, that is absolutely considered conversion therapy.
No, it's not. This is
It
part
is.
of this is
It is.
no. This is part of comprehensive care, and I'm sorry if the system has failed you.
No,
And
you can look
for-
at the
and you
Travis
for
Stock
whatever-
Oversight Committee. If if a patient came in with a history of sexual trauma, and one of the doctors wanted to explore that, they would be told, no, don't do that. And this has been exposed in oversight committees. Like guys can't keep saying that. Oh, we do watch and wait, but also say that watching and waiting is conversion therapy. You can't have it both ways. Just like you guys try to have it both ways that like the suicide
Hold
trans
on. Let's take this
rate
one
is-
point at a time. Chill. It's not watching and waiting
Okay.
to take active steps to better the conditions around you, and it is not watching and waiting to have a medical professional say, "Hey, I understand that you are showing symptoms of gender dysphoria and you feel uncomfortable in your skin. We're going to take that at face value, and then additionally, we are going to look at other alternatives."
Oh, you'll get canceled for that, dude. You'll get canceled.
I don't give a fuck about this weird fucking world and word that you're using. Sure, cancel
We have
me.
like official whistleblower documents from
what does
stuff like the
canceling
Travis
mean,
Stock.
buddy? What does canceling mean?
It means that you are moving away from the trans orthodoxy.
What does canceling mean? What I'm canceled. What does that mean?
Well, I was just making a joke to cancel. I mean, that's not harp on
Okay,
the
so
word cancel.
yeah, okay, cool. So you just live in a different reality, and I have nothing for you because that's unfortunately how it is with Matt Walsh and Ron DeSantis acolytes. And I had an unfortunate feeling that was the case going into this. And genuinely, my heart breaks for you. I hear your story, and I see it as a visceral rejection of you. I don't want to armchair psychoanalyze. I just feel like these are things that would be kind of improved upon or better looked into by a medical professional, which I am not. Yeah, that was also a very unfunny joke. I'm sorry. You had the whole squad laughing.
How'd they hear that joke? There was an ad. Ad skipper. I swear there was an ad right when I said that joke, or at least explained that it was a joke. Whatever. I want to know how you disabled ads on Twitch because I want to do this.
You subscribe to me for $5 free with an Amazon Prime. Okay.
Hey, I teed you up, bro. There you
Thanks. I appreciate you.
go. See, we're back on friendly terms. I tee you up.
We're always on friendly terms, okay? My heart breaks for you, Soda. Genuinely, it does.
This stuff just makes no sense to me. I feel like I have a good definition of what male and female is.
You don't. You have a very pedantic, inefficient, harmful view of what man and woman is.
Definitely not.
I don't know, buddy.
Traditional biological definition that have existed since genetic screening has existed.
I want you, if possible. Are you insured?
No.
Fuck, I'm sorry.
I mean,
I don't know what state you're in, but Oregon, for example, is OHP. Like, I'm poor enough, so I have I have like more or less free healthcare. Still sucks, but I get free therapy. Soda, I would highly recommend, if possible, please check into a mental health professional. Outside of even just for gender dysphoria that you may or may not still be feeling, something that they can analyze and I can't because I'm not a professional. For these absolutely brain-dead schizophrenic takes you have where you live in an elseworld.
Oh, see, you just use schizophrenic as an insult. Hey,
Yeah.
thank you, psych community, for what's the word for fucking demonizing a neurodivergence.
Oh no, I'm being descriptive, buddy.
Oh, I'm sure I'm neurodivergent, but schizophrenic. That's just if you were being descriptive, you should probably be aware that feels like more of an insult when you say that. I mean, I feel like you would be privy that you would be
I'm concerned about your
prone
mental
to that type of
well-being, and
argument.
you should get yourself looked into.
I'm concerned for you because a communist identifying as non-binary. Both of these are solely just identifying as non-binary, identifying as LGBTQ, and that's not based on sexual attraction. It's not based on sexual behavior. Based solely on identification correlates with suicidality and mental health problems.
I'm pretty happy.
No, nah, I don't. A lot of the times you say you ain't. I've seen you stream.
I'm generally pretty happy. I think we have a lovely community here of generally happy people.
Twitch ain't a community.
Okay. Well, hey.
See, Morgan is fine.
Here's the deal.
They're not They're not schizophrenic. They're just transphobic. Although I'm not a fascist, I'm a neocon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, buddy. I'm going to let you go. Okay. This has been
all right.
Entirely...
I hope you play some Dark Souls.
Yeah, we'll be
play
getting to
Elden
that.
Ring.
We have to cover the protests in Israel. Look, I will give you a handful of studies, and I want you to kind of go in and look at the studies that are cited within those studies.
Okay, and I'll give you studies from tobacco companies that say smoking's good for you. Does that prove anything?
Okay. Well,
does that prove that smoking's good for you? The people who profit from it
I wish you the
say
best,
good,
buddy.
therefore it must
be well. Oh, God. Well, that went about as catastrophically as I assumed it would go. Where are we at, chat? Oh, I need a drink. We can do some analysis in a minute. I need to go use the little debater's room and then grab a drink. We'll be right back. Have fun. Hi, handsome. We're not going out right now, buddy. Oh, excuse me. Thank you, honey. Okay. Oh. Let's talk. Mash buttons. Morgan, get in here. No, it's unironically a dog whistle. I wasn't concerned about really defining these things. Yeah, exactly. This is something that we talked about. I don't blame you if you had to kind of tune out throughout parts of that. I wasn't concerned with these weird dog whistle arguments that don't exist. Trans women, of course, do not see themselves as biological women. This isn't something that happens. Hey, they are working on womb transplants. God willing, that would be so dope, right? We get to a point, where the distinction is borderline nothing. Let's say some hundreds of years from now, and this dude's gonna still be obsessed with the dicky and balls that came out. I've got nothing. He lives in an alternate reality that I fear is a product of a violent rejection of a part of his self-admitted history. I really don't want to armchair psychoanalyze that. I feel like that's very irresponsible, but allow me to take a comprehensive route to this, if you may. I've got nothing for somebody that lives in an entirely different reality who says, I don't care about studies. and I don't care about the study of studies of studies. I've got nothing for that. These people, maybe I was just too charitable with soda. See, I'm unfortunately a very happy drunk, and he came in on a drunk stream, so maybe I assumed too much. Hormones do indeed do a lot. There's a lot regarding trans rights that we could have talked about. We would be at this for much longer than this has already gone on for. Yes, hormones do change a lot. In fact, you can be on hormones for, I don't know, insert time here, and then your body naturally produces them. I've dated and been with people who, if Soda really cares about anecdotes, I've dated people who can naturally start more easily producing these hormones akin to cis women while not being on HRT because they've taken them for so long. The idea that we have to see gender as linked with sex and this is how we're going to treat them all the time is foolish. It's inefficient. It's hard to describe. Unfortunately for Soda, see, I live in the material world around me where sex is a bimodal distribution, where intersex people do in fact exist. A lot of people live their lives as cis men and cis women when in fact they aren't. Baby break. Look. Oh, now look. Can I find a study on this instead of just being anecdotal? My dog is fucking losing it. I just typed in Hermione's. Progesterone. Oh god, Chad, I'm so tired. Oh, no, absolutely, and by all means. Please do. This isn't me telling people to stop taking HRT, just that as someone that does not take puberty blockers or hormone replacement therapy, anecdotally, I've been told. Oh god, this is a lot of words. I'm so fucking tired. I think I lost brain cells during that debate. But that gets easier for your body to more naturally produce these hormones. Men and women can both produce, the adjacent hormones. That's one of the salient critiques, unfortunately, against Soda that I've made. Thank you, Mash Buttons. One of the more salient critiques that I've made at the very beginning of the debate with Soda is that men and women can both produce the opposites hormones, and that it makes it really, really, really fucking hard to look at a man or look at a woman and define them as each. Every time you have to go into a bathroom, you need a full physical, including a DNA test. You got to wait 3 to 5 business days before you can use the bathroom. It's schizophrenic posting. I'm sorry. Hey, cancel me. All right. Hey, if it's problematic, fine. But genuinely, I'm worried about the mental well-being of Soda. Someone who is terminally unwell in some form or fashion. Sorry, the real mental disease is being conservative, I should say. We do engage in ableism against conservatives, as conservatism is in fact a neurological disease. I don't know, debate review. I've got nothing. I don't know. How do you argue? How do you convince people, especially someone in Soda's position, who suffered and potentially suffers from gender dysphoria, and also, regardless of that, lives in an elseworld where studies mean nothing, and the study of and meta-analyses and meta-analyses mean nothing. Where you look at a bimodal distribution chart and you say, that's not a bimodal distribution chart. I've got nothing. Soda, I'm timing you out. I'm kidding. No, actually, fuck you. I am timing you out. I've got nothing. Take a break. This is the fun part of being a streamer where I'm right and you're wrong. And we get to talk about that. Maybe you should start streaming, and then you can do the same thing with me. To dismiss studies as not logic and as an appeal to authority is foolish. You live in you're fash-brained, unfortunately. The solution to Soda is fascism, is genocide. And at that point, there's no debating that. Internalized transphobia is a bitch. And I knew that, look, debates and conversations, or whatever you want to fucking call them, they're not, I don't see them as ways to convert anybody, to move anyone over. Hopefully, maybe I can plant a little tiny crumb of a seed and they can branch out and do whatever the fuck they want after that, but forgive me for egg posting, but genuinely, like, I think Soda should seek care for what he self-admitted was gender dysphoria. My heart breaks for him. He found a parental role in some house flipper or some shit. Like, fuck, I don't know. You replace this part of you with, okay, well, here's what masculinity looks like. Looks like fixing houses and whatever weird incel shit. I don't even know who the fuck he was talking about. Assuming some Andrew Tate adjacent nerd. I don't know. Hey, within the purview of my own beliefs, I hope. Well, unfortunately, Soda is uninsured. The likelihood of resolution with that aspect of his life is rough. Fortunately, my system allows for the broadening of care and the improvement of quality of life, so he would be able to seek care under my system. It is indeed never too late. Absolutely, Morgan is fine. You're right. I hope the social conditions around him change. So what do we do next time? What does a debate look like with this kind of person moving forward? See, I had this because I had the mistake. Normally, I would not have this conversation on stream, and I feel like it's very irresponsible to. Oh, I should probably turn my alerts back on. Blot JVig. Here, we'll do this. Look, haha, that's cool. Normally I wouldn't. Oh boy. Hold on, we'll reach that in a minute. Normally I wouldn't have these kinds of conversations on stream, and I feel like they're very harmful. This person lives in a fucking elseworld that isn't based in Well, it's not based, but it's not based in reality. I thought Soda wasn't that, though. I mistakenly attributed good faith to him and empathy to him. I misapplied that. They both appeal. So Soda's liberalism tanks their ability to be logical. They both appealed to the validity of studies when they wanted to talk about correlating. Fuck, I should have brought that up. You're very right about correlating marginalized identity with sewerslide risks. And then they dismissed the study at the end. Yeah, they did that throughout the whole time. They said, oh, well, my studies are right and your studies are wrong, despite my studies mostly just being anecdotes, and your studies and your meta-analysis studies are actually just a shady group of individuals who, we know where that goes. For them, logic and facts, like everything else, live in bubbles so they can believe contradictory things. You can't pin them down with facts, so there's not a whole lot of planning you can do for next time. Exactly. Unfortunately, Blot, as I was saying, I normally don't have these conversations with these kinds of people, and I misattributed empathy and good faith to this person who had been a part of the community for some few weeks. If anything, I feel like there was a rejection of empathy and of good faith within that conversation out of assertion of machismo, of big-brainedness. I'd seen him in chat be a lot more empathetic and good faith towards cases like Eden Knight. He said that I was either disingenuous or harmful or both in covering Eden Knight's story in her letter. However, in chat, you can go through the VOD, remained empathetic through. Yeah, you're right. This weird, unironically saying that, the solution to gender dysphoria is memes, of a deeply unserious person. I should have ended the conversation there. I should have ended the conversation with, no, I'm being serious. Trans people need to stop watching anime. Hey, you know what? Actually, fuck. I should have brought this up as a genderqueer person myself. See, I used to watch anime when I was in high school and then stopped watching anime. Guys, I fucking hate anime. I'm still genderqueer. Can you believe it? The fact that they could think they had a gotcha when pulling up the danger of being marginalized. Yeah, in a system that they propagate. But that's the thing is, and this is why I refuse to have these conversations, and unfortunately I just did, is their solution is genocide, and they're not shy about that. I mean, hey, thanks for being mask off about it, but then we just get into the philosophy of genocide good, genocide bad, and then that's the argument. Are you fucking kidding me? That's foolish. I wanted to have the conversation, but unfortunately Soda, like the spineless little weasel he is, kept running away from it. He kept bringing up, see, I think there's a very specific reason why he didn't, is he's very, very obsessed with the genitalia of kids, loves the dick and balls and the boobies of teenagers. And I said, I don't give a fuck where they go, what they do with them, so long as they're alive and their quality of life improves, okay? The regret rate is astronomically low, lower than, say, something like knee replacement surgery, which shows a 16%, at least 16% regret rate. So do we just ban knee replacement surgeries? Do we call for a federal genocidal ban on Not only just a ban on knee replacement surgery, but genocidal rhetoric on people that feel like they need a knee replacement surgery or do get knee replacement surgeries. See, I don't give a fuck what gender affirming care looks like, so long as people are alive and happy and healthy. And if you want to trolley problem it, the 1% to 2%, the very small fractional minority of this group that expresses regret, okay. Hey, if it's that versus the thousands and thousands of other trans individuals that get to live happier lives, but that's assuming the argument. See, the people that do express regret oftentimes express regret not because they feel like they're not trans, but express regret because they weren't allowed to socially transition, because their environment around them fucking sucks. Yeah. Yeah, you chose genocide. The amount of times that Soda unironically said you chose genocide by transitioning, I've got nothing. That's fucking Hitler final solution shit. I don't want to ban Soda, but I'm probably going to ban Soda if we're going to be real. Or maybe do a few months and he can come back when he's cooled the fuck off. Yeah, Morgan is fine. I don't blame you. Yeah, again, like if you needed to tune out throughout that conversation, I don't blame you. I really did not want that conversation to be debating existence. There's no shortage of studies that show that trans people actually do in fact exist, spoiler alert, and have existed for the longest fucking time, regardless of where they're located. In the global south and global north. Like, before, during, and after antiquity. But then we ran into the issue of him looking at those studies and saying, nope. But yes, no, he genuinely said, trans people choose genocide. You get what you deserve kind of shit. Like, that's not a conversation I want to have. There are different kinds of conversations I can have with that, and they are not vocal. I'll tell you that. Absolutely, mash buttons. Is my fucking trans rights emote approved yet? I'm so mad. The Twitch affiliate program sucks. I'm so glad that you guys just get to give money to Twitch and not me. I guess we just gotta go hit partner. Oh shit, stop. That's not what I wanted to look at. Where's my community? Nope. Viewer rewards, emotes. Damn, still waiting on the trans rights. Still waiting on trans rights. We can just put a trans rights in the chat, though. Still waiting on anti-bottom action. That's the real pain. Man, woman, modern binary is much more recent, absolutely. And much less universally agreed upon than what they push on us, absolutely. Fucking history lessons are always weaponized. Mash buttons, you can't unsubscribe because A, you don't get to use my cool emotes, and B, that takes away from the, I need a minimum $50 payout. To be completely clear with you guys on how the payout system works, I need a minimum 50 on my end. A minimum 50. Thank you, mash buttons. A minimum 50 on my end. Not like, so like if you donate 5, I see a few cents of that. Or like if you sub for 5, I see a few cents of that. And then Twitch takes the rest. So those few cents have to keep adding up to 50. And then they'll allow me to see some money. How fucked is that? So anyway, you have to do both. Ha. But also, oh shit, I need to turn TTS on. What were we talking about outside of shilling my channel? I don't know. Go subscribe to my YouTube. Man, woman, modern binary is much more recent and less universally agreed upon than what they push us to believe. Absolutely, we talked about that as sex being a bimodal distribution, as the terms man and woman, boy and girl being historically disagreed upon or used in different ways. See, again, at the heart of the argument, when we were talking about language, I see language as descriptive and not prescriptive. And that's very empowering for me. I'm able to more adequately define my surroundings very quickly. Whereas fucking soda has to go through somebody's goddamn DNA chart before they're able to have a basic conversation. How funny is it that, hey, someone walks up to you and they look like a woman and you're just talking to them? Do you expect them to say, hey, I was born as a woman and my pronouns are she, her? And he goes, well, I don't know. If I'm going to fuck them, I need to know. Like, dog, we're talking about a fucking conversation here, you freak. Weird, abnormal behavior. But yes, in the 1900s, in fact, boys, young, new boys before puberty were called girls. And then we're called like young men or boys or whatever after puberty. Language is descriptive, not prescriptive. It changes due to a handful of things. And I think the fact that we are able to more adequately define our surroundings in a more progressive way, in a more all-encompassing way, that might change from time to time, is so viscerally empowering. Yeah, handsome weird champ for sure. Yeah, I need to get on fucking Patreon. Hey, I have a donation thing set up in, God, I honestly just want to chill. We might talk about the Israeli protests tomorrow. I wanted to end stream on a little bit more of or in the political segments on a little bit more of a hopeful note. But honestly, at this point, I'm fucking brain broken and angry and just disappointed. Where is my alert box? Let's turn on TTS. Right? Wait, hold on. Prime subs. Text-to-speech settings. Enabled. Bits. Enabled. Damn, I still had bits set up. Cool. And there's no... Okay, so let's see. Test donation. Oh, it's because I didn't hit save. Let's try this one more time. Test donation. Beautiful. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, so final thoughts. What do we do for next time? We just don't have this conversation. That was a foolish mistake on my part, misattributing empathy to this genocidal maniac. I'll be stewing on whether or not to ban soda. It sucks because social ostracization is probably what led soda to this point. And I know he feels solidarity here with me being genderqueer, and with Mash Buttons being queer, and with people in chat being in some part of the queer community, right? And there's power in that, and I don't want to take that away from him, but you ban him from this kind of community, and then where does he go, you know? Who are the people that don't ban him? It's fucking Matt Walsh, you know? Ben Shabibs. God. I'm sorry, Morgan is fine. You probably missed this this analogy. God, I wish I could pull it up on the VOD, but we'll just do this in the YouTube video inevitably. That bit where he was saying that deer are like a wounded deer is asking to be predated on by a, what do you say, like a tiger or something? Hey, I'm a predator. That's not the win you think it is, Soda. Okay. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you're so inclined, feel free to like and share the video, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more. If you would like to join chat on stream, go pop on over to twitch.tv/CommieBravo. I hope to see you there.